Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
If this story was any good, maybe you people would understand it. You don't even understand the story. It goes over everybody's head. How great can it be? Maybe they need to talk more during these matches.
And Rich Crage.
This is my entire life's goal, is to be a WWE superstar, and now I am the NXT Women's Champion.
You can take that. If you want that, great. Good for you. I want him to talk about getting roadhead. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want out of my wrestling. Call me old-fashioned, Joe.
Yo, it is the best wrestling podcast on earth. It is the Flagship Podcast. I, of course, am Joe. No worries. I know that I never do the intro. Rich is not on another one of his lavish vacations. He is here. Hello, Rich Crage.
Hello.
There is a lot to get to. We have, I don't know. I sent you over some extensive notes. We've got a ton of different promotions to talk about. New Japan had their Lone Star Shootout. DDT had their Ultimate Party with Chris Jericho versus Konosuke Takeshita. All Japan had their Real World Tag League has started up. We had a Noah GHC title change a couple of weeks ago that we haven't had time to talk about, but that we will talk about this week. Dragongate got back into Corkin after their big show with their Gate of Evolution show, and we're going to talk about that. A Dragongate show that I actually enjoyed this year, Rich Crage. So
I know that was going to be my hot take. I was very upset that my hot take this week was going to be, Joe, I got a Dragongate show for you that you were going to like, you were going to enjoy. I think it's classic Dragongate, and then I go onto our Discord, and you're like, this match is awesome. This match is great. I'm like, damn it. All right, well, that's fine. But we can both be excited about Dragongate because I love that show too.
So we will get to that a little bit later. The monthly CMLL catch-up. I am finished with the month of October, so we will recap the month of October in CMLL and get people all caught up on that. Bunch of other topics along the way, but of course there is nowhere else to start other than Full Gear AEW. It is this weekend. We had the Go Home Dynamite. We will have the Rampage and the Collision. Now, are they having a Collision, or because Full Gear is on Saturday? What's going on with
Collision
that?
is tomorrow. I don't recall them mentioning that too often yesterday, so I don't know.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah, yes, I believe Collision is tomorrow, right? Am I wrong? I'm almost positive it is airing at some point tomorrow, but I think it's. Let me get the exact timeline of that. So it is indeed happening tomorrow. As far as when it's airing, that I don't. Oh, it's head-to-head with SmackDown. So they're doing Collision and then Rampage. Collision will be head-to-head with SmackDown, where it should... yeah, that's not going to go well for them.
That's right. No, we did know about this because the last time they went head-to-head with NXT and AEW, we said in a few weeks that we're going to do this all over again. But we're
right. There you go.
So... So then there's going to be a Rampage after that, or in the normal time slot, or
correct.
I guess, or
I believe so. I believe the Rampage will be as normal. Collision will just be up against SmackDown.
So they're doing a 3-hour Collision,
essentially. Yeah, 3-hour Collision / Rampage, AEW Super Hour or whatever.
And then of course on Saturday it'll be Full Gear. So there's nowhere else to start but there. So I mean, what do you think? You know, it's been an up and down build. I think that there's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the promotion that we haven't been thrilled about, but in terms of this pay-per-view, the television ratings have been down year over year for the majority of the year now at this point. Quarter 2 and quarter 3, the live attendance obviously has been down year over year, average attendance. And there's actually Brandon Thurston put out a really good KPI report on AEW earlier today that I'll bring up as this conversation moves along, which really outlines a lot of those numbers. But the pay-per-views this year have absolutely continued to deliver, both in terms of in the ring, and they've done a tremendous amount of buys as well. Tony Khan talked today how All In did over 200,000 buys and is the second most purchased pay-per-view in the history of the company. And the pay-per-view business hasn't declined like the television ratings and the attendance have. And the quality of the pay-per-views haven't dropped. So this is my long-winded way of asking you, do you think this is going to be a good show? And do you think it's going to perform in terms of buys?
This is an interesting one in a lot of ways because this is really, to me, the first AEW pay-per-view where the rubber could potentially meet the road in terms of what we've seen over the last couple of months with AEW, where All In was, yeah, you and I were kind of uneven about the build, and I didn't really love it, but you could still see the roadmap. You could still see what they were trying to do. You could, like we've said, and I've said time and time again, the Cole MJF story wasn't for me, but culminating at All In was, I got it. I understood what they were trying to do. I understood what it was going to be. One of the guys was going to stab the other guy in the back or whatever, and then we were going to, move on to the next, chapter of that story. That didn't happen. But regardless if it happened or not, that was still just a unique pay-per-view in a lot of ways. It was the first time ever in Wembley, a giant stadium show. It had a pretty damn good card on paper. So that all kind of worked out. Like that's one that, even if I wasn't into the build and was like, I don't know, the TV's not great, at least at the end of the day, it was Wembley. It was a major stadium show. It was unique. It was different. That was going to do well. There was no doubt in my mind that All In was going to do well. All Out traditionally does well. And that All Out show, we wondered about, okay, this is going to be tough coming, a week after All In or whatever, back to back. You're putting a lot on the ticket buying audience and the pay-per-view buying audience and all that sort of stuff. But really, it was fine. Like it's All Out is traditionally a great pay-per-view. And I think the card on paper looked fantastic. Yeah, it was only like a couple, day build or whatever. They didn't have much time to build it, but I think they did a great job with the build. And yeah, I was not surprised again when that one came out and was also good, because it was like, all right, yeah, that those were two shows that deserved it. Forbidden Door is a whole different animal. You know what I mean? Like those are always going to be special shows, and they present them as special shows. So that looks, but to me, it's like Full Gear. We're finally here now where it's like, okay, we're fully in the quote unquote MJF era now. We're fully entrenched in it. There's not a whole lot of super special attractions on this show. It is, for all intents and purposes, this is an AEW pay-per-view of the fall of 2023. You know what I mean? It has all the major stories, all the major players of AEW at this time. There's not a ton of big injuries. There's not a ton of big, people coming in from the outside. It is an AEW pay-per-view in the fall. You know what I mean? Like, and it is that. So I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm very, very, very curious, because on paper, I don't know that this is a jump off the page pay-per-view. I don't know if this is a pay-per-view that I go, oh man, if this wasn't my job, I'd be clearing the calendar to watch it. I don't know if it is that. I really don't. And that's...
See, okay, let me counter that. See, I think the reason that their pay-per-view numbers haven't declined with the rest of the consumer metrics is I think that they have earned consumer trust for the quality of their pay-per-views. And I think that fans like us, who might be turned off by the tone of the TV, who might not buy tickets anymore, who might not watch the TV every week, we still keep one eye on the promotion. And I think that there's a certain level of trust that, it's an AEW pay-per-view. It's going to be great. It's going to be, a lot of these AEW pay-per-views, even this year, have ranked among, in our opinions, the greatest American pay-per-views of all time. They're always really fucking good. So my take on it is I think the pay-per-view will do well, because I think that there's still a lot of consumer trust that the pay-per-view is going to be good. And I think until they have a bad pay-per-view, or until they have a pay-per-view that sort of matches some people's opinions of the overall tone of the promotion, I think that'll remain strong, because I think people know they're going to get their money's worth if they buy an AEW pay-per-view.
I think they do. No, and I agree with you. I think there is some confidence in there, but I do look at this show on paper, and I don't know that this has the same oomph as a lot of other AEW pay-per-views in the past have. I think at best you're looking at Young Bucks, Golden Jets, there's not a ton of, I think that'll be great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see that match on a card and I go, okay, I think that's probably going to be pretty damn good. Now, the story, there's not a ton to the story. It's a little haphazardly put together, but hey, it's the Young Bucks and it's Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. I think I'm fine with that match. I'm sure that match is going to be pretty good. Hangman and Swerve, we'll talk about that a little bit more. That is one that I'm like, all right, cool. I circle that as like, that is a match that I do want to see. I got to scroll a lot more down. You got Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley, which I do think I want to see. There's just not, is there as much intrigue as there was for All Out for Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy? No, but those guys have definitely earned that. So I think Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley, to a lesser extent, is a match that I circle and go, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And MJF and Jay White, your mileage may vary on that. And I think that's probably where a lot of people are going to come down to. I don't know if that's going to be like the ticket buying, decision is, do I care about this main event? So I'm going to buy this show or not. But I look at an AEW pay-per-view and I see two matches that I'm really looking forward to, one match that I'm kind of looking forward to, and a main event that I don't know with a straight face that I can say I'm looking forward to. And I'm trying to buy myself into it. And I'll tell you, we'll talk about the go home show and Jay White's promo and all that sort of stuff. That promo helped me get closer to being there, but I don't know if I'm there all the way in terms of, do I really, really, really want to see MJF and Jay White for the world title? Right now, not really. Like, sort of, kind of. And there's some reasons why I do want to see it, but it doesn't strike me as a main event that's like, oh yeah, that's a main event that people are going to want to buy and want to see and do all that sort of stuff. So you're really looking at a pay-per-view that, for me, has the Bucks, Jericho and Omega, and your mileage may vary on that one too, and has Page and Swerve, which I think everybody should probably be excited about that one. I can't imagine many people not super excited about that one. And then, yeah, if you want to put Cassidy and Moxley in that same boat, you can as well. Man, the title 4-way, don't care. TBS title, good God, I do not care about that. Sheeta and Toni Storm, we'll get to that. I mean, some people might pretend to care, but I can't. And then the Sting match has the intrigue of Sting, but I don't know. Are you really looking forward to Cage, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne versus Copeland, Allen, and Sting? Like, I don't know that I really am. So that's where I come down to, is a lot of these AEW pay-per-views on paper, whether I like the builds or not, you can kind of, look at it and go, shit, that's a hell of a show. Man, look at these matches. I don't know if this one has that same oomph that a lot of those other AEW pay-per-views do. Now, will it still probably be a good show? It probably will.
Well, yeah, that's what I want to know. That's a lot of words. Is it going to do well or not?
I don't know. I can't tell you what the ticket buying. I mean, the ticket buying audience has reflected what they thought of the fall of 2023 for AEW.
They're going to have 11,000, 12,000 people in the building.
They will. Yeah.
I think some of that is the return to LA. But clearly, if the show wasn't connecting, they wouldn't have sold these tickets. So, I mean, and they're pushing up. They may end up having another $1 million gate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that standpoint, the show's delivering at the gate. So I don't know. I think the pay-per-view is going to do well. So the jury's out. You don't know. You're going to wait and see. And, I don't think it looks like a great show on paper, but I do think it looks like a good show on paper. And until AEW proves to me that they're not going to have great pay-per-views, I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view as well. I just think that everybody has their working shoes on for these things. And, look, I think there's going to be some stuff on the show that we hate. I think there's no question about that, because I'm telling you right now, Timeless Tony's going to wrestle in black and white.
Bet the fucking house. If my bookie was taking odds on that.
And I said that weeks ago. We said that weeks ago.
We were on it weeks ago, and they have not let up on it. Yesterday, opening the door, and it goes to black and white, closing the door, it's back to color, opening the door back, and it's black to black and white. Absolutely. Sheeta is coming out. Hikaru Shida is going to come out first. It's going to be color, and then Tony's going to come out, and it's going to be in black and white, and the announcers are going to be like, oh, my God, what's going on here? I guess we're going to wrestle this match in black and white, and it's like, yeah, positive. Bet the fucking house that match is going to be in black and white, for sure. And that's going to suck, and it's going to be shtick heavy, and she's going to slap Sheeta's ass, and she's going to throw a bunch of shoes at it and stuff. Like, anybody that thinks that bell's going to ring and you're going to get, Toni Storm of a year ago, Toni Storm of 6 months ago, you're out of your fucking mind. That's not her anymore. Not with this character.
Yeah, so, at some point, they're going to roll Roderick Strong out there to do his shtick. The giraffe was back this week. But, I'm banking on the show delivering bell to bell, because they haven't proven to me that. I mean, I do think they still pride themselves on that.
The roster's too good, and I've said that before. Like as uneven as the creative has been this year, this roster's still too damn good. That if you roll the ball out, you know what I mean, let these guys play type of thing. Where you say, all right, you know what, just wrestle. I mean, there's no roster in wrestling history that is better at wrestling than these guys. You know what I mean? Like you give these guys 4 hours, you give each of these guys 20 to 30 minutes or whatever to do their thing. Yeah, you're gonna have a good. I mean, this roster is just too damn good for it to get bogged down, and that would be the real moment when one of these pay-per-views does get bogged down, or it doesn't work, or the wrestling isn't good, or whatever. That's when you can ring those alarm bells even louder. But right now, I'm kind of with you. I think the pay-per-view is probably going to do well. It's probably going to be a good pay-per-view. Will it do well? I don't know. I can't say with any confidence right now because I just don't know. The business has been kind of weird. Like you're saying, there's 11,000 people here, but you read off those KPIs that Brandon Thurston did. I mean, from a live event standpoint, a lot less people are going to shows, and from a TV standpoint, a lot less people are watching the show. So I can't imagine at some point that has to catch up to them, especially this is kind of a weird time around the holidays as well. There might be people being a little more tight around the wallet. I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to do well because the shows are always good. But just speaking to that, yeah, Brandon put out that KPI report, which is the key performance indicators, and you look at the ticket sales. Quarter 1, okay, the company was beating the previous year over year. The problems have started with AEW beginning in quarter 2. Now, does that line up with when I said the tone of the show changed? It might, but this isn't the week to do that victory lap. I think I've done that one enough and beaten that dead horse into a bloody pulp. But you look beginning in quarter 2 with the tickets distributed, and they were down. There were 128,000 tickets distributed quarter 2 in 2022. In 2023, the number was 120,000. So they were down about 8,000 tickets distributed year over year. But in 2022, they only ran 18 shows. In 2023, they ran 23 shows. So the average amount of tickets per show was significantly higher in 2022 versus 2023, even though it was only 8,000 total tickets difference. Okay. So that's where the problems began. They had less tickets distributed and they ran more shows, which is a bad combination. And then you look at quarter 3, which is the quarter that just wrapped up that Brandon put this report out on. It's on WrestleNomics if anybody wants to see it for themselves. If you take out All In, because it would be preposterous to leave it in. That's an outlier. We can compare year over year next year when they do Wembley again, right? But you can't compare this year with Wembley against last year without Wembley. So if we remove All In, okay, they distributed 126,000 tickets in quarter 3 this year versus 94,000 tickets last year. But they also ran 26 shows this year and only ran 16 shows last year. So when you look at the average tickets distributed per show, last year it was about 5,900. This year it's about 4,900. So in quarter 3, they're down about 1,000 fans per show, but they're running more shows. And they ran All In, which was another 80,000 people, right? And they obviously are running more pay-per-views this year. They're running more shows overall. They're running more pay-per-views. The company is making more money, but it's out of volume. The consumer metrics are down, okay? So if you just look at Dynamite, it's the same story. Quarter 1, they had year-over-year growth. But beginning with quarter 2, you look at the tickets distributed. And remember, because this is broken down by quarter and Dynamite is weekly, it's now an equal amount of shows.
Right, same
per
13 shows
13
every
shows
quarter.
It's 52 weeks a year. So it's going to be 13 weeks per quarter. And they were down 1,200 tickets in quarter 2 year over year. And in quarter 3, they averaged 5.7 thousand fans in 2022, and they averaged 4.9 thousand fans in 2023. And if you want to take that back to 2021, they're 2,000 fans down from 2021 in quarter 3, where they were averaging almost 7,000 fans per Dynamite 2 years ago, and we're down to under 5,000 in terms of tickets distributed. Tickets distributed, and these numbers are WrestleTix, so it's not necessarily tickets sold, but it's going to be close enough, and it gives people the general idea of what's going on. So as you can see, there's a ticket trend both for Dynamite and overall since Q2 of this year, which is not good. And it has continued in Q4, obviously. There were 3,400 people at that Dynamite last night. Okay. Last year, Q4 Dynamites averaged 4,300 people. So, and when we've seen all the advanced ticket sales, they're dire. And it's the same story with the television ratings. Okay. Dynamite is down 11% in total viewership. Rampage is down 20% in total viewership year over year. And, before you go pointing to lost cable homes and everything, that's higher than the rate of lost cable homes. But what Brandon did is he compared it to other TBS and TNT originals. And when he says originals, what he means is other shows that rate on the top 150 on the daily chart. So no reruns of sitcoms or anything like that. The other TNT and TBS shows that rank on the chart, whether it's NBA or NHL or whatever else. Well, those shows are up 3%. They were up 3% in the third quarter. So AEW is now strongly underperforming the other programming on their own networks to a pretty massive degree.
Right.
And it's the same story in the key demo. Dynamite's down 14% in Q3. Rampage is down 19%. And the other TBS and TNT originals are essentially flat in the demo as well. So, and again, these trends all started right around the second quarter of this year, and they continue into the fourth quarter. But again, overall, because they're running more shows, they ran 27 shows in the third quarter versus 16 shows last year. And they obviously have added, 2 pay-per-views, All In, World's End. Am I missing one? No, because they ran 5 the year before.
Yet. Yeah, we're going to start that pretty soon.
Next
but right
year,
now,
it's gonna be,
yes. Right now, not World's End is going to be the first. I guess you have All In. Obviously, you have All In, which was a special show. But
that's on the calendar now. He's doing it every year.
Right. No, so you had All In, and now you had World's End, which is going to be kind of what the first official, to me, for the All In and World's End. The first. Well, I guess Wrestle Dream. We forgot about Wrestle Dream, of course.
Oh, Wrestle Dream. So
yeah,
3. They added 3.
So yeah, it is.
Yeah. And there's more coming next year. Make no
right.
doubt about it. If you heard Tony Khan's comments on the media call today, he talked about how, he has studied this and this year he has added these shows and they've all done well. All In did better than any show other than the Punk return. So yeah, they're going to add more and they should add more. If the shows are going to perform, they should add them. Okay, they should add more.
We've reached the point like every wrestling company does, and everybody always says, and this happened in 1997, and it happened in 1996, and it happened in 1995, and it happened in 1993. You can go read the observers of all those years at the time. Is people will say, I can't add pay-per-views. You're gonna burn the audience out. The audience is gonna want to buy anymore. And
never works that way.
Yeah, it never, ever works that way. In 1993, when Eric Bischoff said, well, why aren't we running more fucking pay-per-views? And everybody said, Eric, you're going to burn the territory out. He just said, no, we're going to do it. And guess what happened? That, maybe they lost a couple pay-per-view buys here and there in the short term, but then little by little, all those people came back, and then more, and then more, and then they just made a ton more money. And the same thing happened with WWF when they said, no, Eric's going to kill himself. They're going to burn the territory out there. Eventually, Vince McMahon then had to say, you know what, we'll do the in-your-house thing. We'll do those for, $19.99 or $9.99 or whatever the hell they were, and we'll do that because we don't want to burn the audience out or whatever. And then eventually, they just made those full-on pay-per-views, and they made more money than ever. It's an inevitability in professional wrestling that this is going to happen. The idea of doing quarterly pay-per-views, I love it. I think it's a great idea. It makes for fun. I think fun builds the shows, and it makes the shows super, super special. But if you're running a business, the monthly pay-per-view model, we've proven now for 2 decades at this point, the monthly pay-per-view model is definitely the way to go. So it's going to happen. It was an inevitability that at some point it was going to get there, and now we're here.
It's a matter of time. But right now, this is a company, and this might sound familiar, where the consumer metrics are down and continuing to go down, but they're they are making more money overall. Right.
Making more money from TV, getting more extra money from Turner and from Warner. And
the only concern, though, now the concern here is this is really bad timing for your television ratings to be doing so poorly year over year in comparison to the other programming on the network that you're negotiating with. This is poor timing. I am still confident they're going to get a television deal because Dynamite in particular performs so well. It's very often there's a lot of weeks where it's the number 2 show on cable, excluding sports, behind Raw, and that's extremely valuable. We'll find out how valuable when they get their deal. And even Rampage and Collision with the sometimes ugly looking numbers that they do still perform well in their time slots and on their days. You know, they're not the runaway successes that Dynamite has been, but I would think that those shows are considered better performers than what WBD could have in those, some of the alternatives that they could have in those slots. But we'll see. You know, I'm confident they'll get a deal, but this is certainly poor timing. You don't want to be, you know, 11% down and 14% down in the demo when, you know, the other programming on the network is holding up just fine, right, when you're in the heart of a media rights negotiation. That, you know, the timing has so much to do with these
for
things,
sure. And it's going to be a volatile negotiation this year as well, because you're competing up against, you know, the NBA is getting in the mix, and they want a fucking absolute shit ton of money, and Warner obviously wants to be involved in that, and some other networks are trying to get their hand in there. So you have that going on, you have the NBA going on, you just have a ton of other things going on at the same time, and just a volatile market with the RSNs potentially collapsing or whatever. And it's, you know, this deal is a lot easier done 2 years ago. You know what I mean? This deal is so much easier done a year ago, but being done right now, it's a very volatile time, and nobody's quite sure what the hell the landscape is going to be for sports TV. And this idea that it was just going to always, you know, go up, and exponentially up every single time you signed a new deal. Now things are, you know, they're still going up. Make no doubt about it. People are still signing gigantic deals, but they're not going up to the levels that everybody thought they were going to go up. And that's maybe starting the bubble's not bursting, but it's certainly, you know, it's not growing. You know what I mean? Like the bubble, we don't know what it's going to do. Like there's going to be,
it stopped growing at the exponential rate that we're used to.
It's not,
you know, you just look at
overwhelming the world anymore like it was before. This unsustainable.
Go ahead. You look at SmackDown not getting the expected raise, but they still got a raise, right? You look at that women's soccer league, the National Women's Soccer League, which I honest to God didn't even know existed, and they just signed a mega television deal that stunned me. I was like, first of all, I didn't know the league existed. And then I was like, what kind of numbers could it possibly be doing? And then, you know, the championship game did like 900,000 viewers or so. It basically does AEW numbers. And, you know, so I don't know if you want to look to their deal as maybe a comp for AEW. What'd they get? 90 million over
something like that. Yeah. I will say
NWSL. Let me pull that up.
Yeah. Try to get the numbers there. But I will say one of the things that was kind of startling and very upfront, and we were kind of on top of this and discussed this for years, talking about how Fox with SmackDown, they wanted big numbers on for SmackDown. They got, what was it, 4 million out of the gates, I think, that first week. And we all kind of said, okay, what's week 2? Nobody gives a shit about week 1. Everyone was going to check it out week 1. That was going to be a big show. You had The Rock on it. You had all this sort of stuff. What's week 2 going to do? And we did it at the time. We did that show and said, whoa, okay. They went to like 2 million almost immediately after, and then kind of settled there pretty quickly. And it wasn't just the raw numbers that Fox wasn't happy with. And I don't know that they were jumping for joy over the numbers. You know, you could kind of split hairs about that. It's still, you know, getting that amount of people to watch, you know, a show on Friday nights is still pretty good. But what Fox was able to say and very publicly say over the last couple of weeks, you know, when they didn't re-sign WWE and they said, oh yeah, they can go to USA or whatever, is that the ad rates were not what they thought, that the ad money was not what they thought it was going to be. And that's something that we haven't heard in wrestling in a very, very long time. That was the stuff you heard about wrestling in the 90s and in the early 2000s and that sort of stuff, when it was doing mega numbers, but the ads were not, the amount of money you could charge for an ad wasn't worth it, you know, to advertise on Raw and advertise on Nitro. Go back and watch those shows. They're not getting prestige advertisers because the rates just weren't matching. And that was something that WWE had to combat almost all throughout the 2000s. And I think it was Bonnie Hammer, I believe, was in charge of NBCU at that time. And she kind of decided, well, here's what we're going to do to kind of help make WWE get better ads, is we're just going to say, if you're buying ads from NBC Universal Properties, and correct me if I'm wrong if you remember the details of this exactly, but basically said, we're just going to lump WWE into all of our properties, and you're going to buy ads from NBCU, and then we're going to decide what we're going to put your ads on. And that sort of helped WWE's ad rates tick up a little bit. But then we see Fox coming back this time and saying, yeah, we just couldn't get the amount of ad rates that we wanted to get on broadcast television for WWE programming. And now, is that going to matter as much for an AEW if they're going to stick to cable? Probably not. But I think that was still something to make note of, is that, you know, despite all this stuff about, you know, what the numbers that wrestling is presenting, and you talked about it right there with the National Women's, you know, Soccer League, perhaps the ad rates are enough where they're like, all right, cool, we'll spend a little bit more money. we're going to get better ad rates. And yeah, they might do the same viewership as a wrestling program might, but we're definitely going to do better in terms of ad rates, prestige advertisers, that sort of stuff than we are with professional wrestling. And that also plays a part in all these TV rights negotiations too.
So their championship game did 915,000 viewers. The year before it did 817,000 viewers. I'm looking for their numbers for their regular season. I would assume it's obviously much lower than that, but same ballpark in total viewership than what AEW is doing. Their deal is $240 million over 4 years. So they got $60 million a year. I would think that Tony Khan is going to want more than that.
I would
his
hope.
Deal.
Yes, I would certainly hope so.
Than $240 million over 4 years, but it gives you a ballpark. Okay. And obviously the advantage for wrestling is that it's year round and it's not in seasons. And this television deal for the NWSL was also with 4 different entities: CBS, ESPN, Amazon, and something called Scripps. What the hell is Scripps?
Scripps, the NXT guy, right? Scripps, guy with the orange
yeah,
mask.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess
he's gonna air it at his house. Yeah, I don't know. Scripps.
Yeah.
There's this TV network called Scripps.
I don't know. It says CBS, ESPN, Amazon, and Scripps.
How do you spell Scripps? Z? What are we talking here?
SCRIPPS. What the fuck is Scripps?
Scripps TV. I don't know. Cool. I have no idea. I've literally never heard of Scripps, but good for them.
Is it a streaming service or something? What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Mm.
All right. Well, who cares? The point is they got a 40-time raise over their last deal for those numbers. So this is why I'm confident that AEW is going to secure a deal, and I think it'll be that might give them a template. I mean, they certainly are more valuable than this NWSL running year round and all those sorts of things. Although, like you just said, maybe, the pro wrestling demographics make it harder to sell the ads. But the flip side of that is that was a Fox problem. That was a network problem.
Network is a bigger deal for people listening. Selling ads on a network is much more important than selling ads on cable. Now, do you want to sell good ads on cable? Of course you do, but it is paramount that you sell good ads on broadcast. It is not as big of a deal.
The bigger name of the game on cable is carriage fees and being on as many cable systems as possible and charging as much as possible for those cable systems to carry TNT and TBS. So that's priority number 1 for a cable network, and selling the ads is priority number 2. For Fox, like Rich was saying, they were looking at SmackDown and they weren't getting bang for their buck with the ads because, first of all, SmackDown wasn't giving them the numbers that they were expecting. They were okay, but we said that throughout the whole deal, and people thought we were nuts. But, I thought SmackDown was going to have to average around 4 million total viewers for them to get the demo to, because the demo, allegedly, Fox's expectations were to do a 1 every week. A 1.00 in the demo. And SmackDown kind of settled in between a 0.5 and a 0.6. So, doing a little bit over 2 million total viewers. So if they would have been closer to 4 million total viewers, that demo number would have been closer to that 1 that Fox was looking for on a weekly basis that they never got. And Fox was always very lukewarm about that relationship when asked about it.
We if you were listening to this show, that any time that a microphone got put in front of a Fox executive and they talked about WWE, it wasn't glowing. It wasn't always, oh my God, we couldn't be happier with what we've received with WWE. It was a lot of weird language about, we're they have momentum, or we're trying to get them to a certain level, or, it was all kind of this guarded language and this weird language. And you and I read it as, these dudes aren't happy. And how could they be? We saw the numbers.
Listen,
we saw the fucking numbers. We looked at them. We know what we're doing here.
There were lukewarm numbers, and there were some quotes that were flat out negative.
Right.
I mean, towards the end of the relationship, there were some quotes from some Fox execs that were like, oh, well, it's not performing as we expected it to, but, it generally wins the night and all this. So, you kind of felt like that was going to fall apart. Now, selling ads isn't quite as important on cable. And what's more important on cable is being closer to being the number 1 cable network. Because then you could charge carriage fees that correlate to being a top 10, top 5, a number 1 cable network. And that's what USA has been gaming it for years, because Monday Night Raw has been shooting them up Raw has carried USA for much of USA's existence over the last
almost all of USA's existence, and its ability of being the quote unquote number one network on cable
is thanks to Raw.
Is thanks to Raw. It was thanks to them in the 90s. It was thanks to them in the 2000s, and there was the brief period, obviously, where they went to Spike, where WWE went to Spike, and go look at those numbers. USA was more than happy to bring them back. When they were eligible to come back as well. So USA largely propped up over a lot of its history through WWE and through Raw.
Yeah, so maybe Warner Bros. Discovery is thinking in the same way. And, okay, well, this Dynamite show has given us 800, 900,000 viewers a week, and that's significantly propping up our average, and there's value there from that standpoint. And, and away you go. So I think they'll get their deal is my point here. The reason I bring all of this up, their business trends, is, again, the pay-per-views haven't followed those consumer metric trends at all. Generally, when consumer metrics begin to fall, and that's almost always due, I mean, there's a direct correlation to, well, then people just aren't happy with what's happening on screen, right? That's the first thing to drop, or consumer metric. Less people are going to watch if there's less interest in a show. Less people are going to buy tickets if the show isn't as good as it was, or there's less. That's just, that's obvious, okay? But for whatever reason, that hasn't happened with their pay-per-views. So until I see evidence that the pay-per-views are also going to fall off the shelf in the same way that the ratings and the live attendance have, just to circle back to what started this entire business conversation, I am betting on the pay-per-view doing well. But I suppose we will see, and I guess we should preview the thing, right? So
let's do it. Before we preview it, I do want to let everybody know, obviously, we're going to be doing Instant Reaction Live this Saturday, immediately following Full Gear. So if you're watching Full Gear on Saturday, when the show is over, flagshippatreon.com, $10 tier. We'll go live about 5 or 10 minutes or so after the show ends. Always an extensive review and recap of the entire show, usually 2 hours plus, 2 to 3 hours. We go deep on every single match, thoughts about every single match, thoughts about the finishes, thoughts on the story, all that sort of stuff. It's an awesome time to be there live, too. The chat room is always buzzing. We're always in real good moods and having fun, too. So definitely a show that you're going to want to check out. That's going to be on our $10 tier, flagshippatreon.com, immediately following Full Gear this Saturday. Should also mention as well that if you're going to order the show on Fight, make sure you use that code voicesofwrestling.com/fight. Order it on voicesofwrestling.com/fight.
How come, again, now I'm reading this off of ESPN. The NWSL announced a new 4-year media rights deal that will partner the U.S. Women's Soccer League with CBS Sports, ESPN, Prime Video, and Scripps Sports. What the fuck? Google doesn't even bring anything up.
I know. I'm looking at it. So I'm finding that it says it's a division of EW Scripps Company, which obviously is like the Scripps Howard National Spelling Bee or whatever. But then I don't know what the fuck this thing is. Like, how do I watch Scripps Sports? Like, what channel is Scripps Sports? You know what I mean? Like, I'm on their website and I can't even figure it out. So Scripps Sports is a division.
Low level.
I don't know. Sure.
Is it a low level cable network that has like no subscribers?
Can't figure out how to watch this. So anyway.
The Arizona Coyotes have reached a 4-year deal with Scripps Sports and will become the second NHL team to broadcast games over the air. This was in October. This has to be an emerging.
Okay, so I have this figured out. I guess that they may license content or they own the Ion Network. You know, Ion Television. Have you ever watched Ion? Yeah. That's so the NWSL will have 25 weeks of regular season matches on Saturday nights per season on Ion Television.
Okay. So, all right. So Scripps Sports is a parent company of probably some networks we've heard of.
Yes, but it also looks like in terms of the Coyotes and the Vegas Golden Knights, it looks like they own.
Is it an RSN?
But then they're sending it out to different affiliates. So I don't know how that works out. I have
Jesus Christ. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
no clue.
So I can't just turn on Scripps Sports.
I don't think you can go to your dial and find Scripps Sports. No. I think
this is infuriatingly confusing.
I think it's on the Ion Network, and it's like a division of the Ion Network or whatever. Who the fuck knows? So,
all right. Well, if there's anyone listening who is an Arizona Coyotes or Vegas Golden Knights fan, I want to know what channel you watch those games on. Then maybe we can figure this out. Right. So, I'll let that hang and see if anybody in the chat chimes in. But yeah, I guess we should preview this Full Gear show.
Let's do it. All right, let's start at the top here with AEW World Title match. MJF versus Jay White. And I thought the go-home promos were a perfect dichotomy of where we've gone in the last couple of months and the last quarter of AEW is you have MJF out there cutting that promo that he cut on Dynamite was fucking brutal. What has happened to MJF? I'm sorry. What is going on here?
Well, listen, I've talked a lot about it behind the paywall, so I guess the floor is yours to express your displeasure.
Halfway through that promo, I'm like, this has to be tongue-in-cheek, like this guy's clearly turning heel thing, right? It's so on the nose. It's so awful. This it's like 1995 Hulk Hogan, but with no confidence. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he is. He's like, I'm going to reach my hand out and I want you to grab it because I want you to believe in me. And I don't know if you should believe in me, gosh darn it, because I don't know if I'm going to let you down. It's like, what? It's like a Hulk Hogan promo, except he's like, oh, I'm not going to lead you to war. No, just go on your own. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's like, what's going on here? Like, what is this? It's like half of this just like weird screamy bravado, but then he's like, oh darn it, I don't have any confidence, I can't do it, I'm just gonna let you all down and I don't want to do that. Like, who wants this? Who's this for?
And then what's funny about it is then every week Jay White basically calls him out on this
yes thing. And then Jay White comes out and goes, MJF, cut the shit, nobody believes this bullshit, you're a fucking villain, you're evil, you're awful, cut the woe is me bullshit, like, let's get on with this. Come on, what are you doing here?
He said, this is not who you are.
Right.
You are a villain. And it's like, you know, MJF is just trying to, his whole deal lately has been, he's trying to be everything to everyone. He's still trying to retain the idea that he's a scumbag. He's still trying to retain this, you know, but now he's also doing kind of this weird, he comes across like some whiny millennial on Twitter who's looking for attention and wants some likes. So they tweet about how they're working hard every day to be a better person.
I'm so tired.
Themselves.
I'm just so tired.
Yeah, and it's like that doesn't fit him at all. It just comes off inauthentic, you know. And it's he's looking for avenues. Like, you know, previous to that, it was the crowd response stuff, which to his credit he stopped doing because he got a lot of criticism for it, took it to heart, admitted it stunk, and adjusted. You know, he dropped the tofu stuff, which Jay White also called him out on a couple weeks ago. You know, oh, how come you don't call me tofu anymore? You know, he's like, you know, and he made fun of him for bringing up the Google Trends. He buried him for that. Jay White has been eating MJF alive.
Oh, he has. Yeah. And this week was probably the best one ever, where MJF is out there doing his fucking 10-minute thing, and then Jay White just comes out and is like, "What are we doing here? You're an idiot. You're a villain. He's Nobody believes this shit. Yeah. Whatever you're doing isn't working. Like, you're just." And I'm just standing ovation for Jay White here. So much so, it's not going to happen, Joe. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know what percentage chance is going to be. Maybe we can talk about what the percentage chance is going to be. I am all in on Jay White winning this title. He's not going to do it. I think there's probably like a 5% chance he does do it, but I think we can course correct in such a big way if he wins this title. There is so many things that we can do differently on the show, and there's so many different ways and avenues and things that can happen if Jay White just wins this fucking title. And I'm not happening. It's not going to happen. It's just not, because there's no way that this guy's going to steal the belt, talk down to MJF, call him a fucking chicken shit, tell him that he's lying to everybody, tell him that he's wrong, tell him he's not what he says he is, and then beat him for the title and just keep the title and walk away with it. That's a lot. That's a lot to do. Even if you have a quote unquote devil, you know, come in and cost MJF the title or whatever, that's still a lot. I mean, I guess if you really want MJF to get down to the absolute bottom of the barrel, and he has all these friends and all this stuff, and he's the champion, and now it's all coming crumbling down. He doesn't have his friend Adam Cole. He doesn't have any friends with him. Maybe he loses the ROH title on this night too. You can have this. You can do a big course correct here. He can lose everything. He can lose it all, and then you have to try to get him to either build this thing back up, or maybe this is what makes him snap and go back to the old MJF. I don't know. It's not happening, but allow me to at least fantasy book it for a minute, because I think it would be the biggest and the best and just the easiest course correction you can do is if you want to do this devil shit, you want to do Roddy, you want to do Adam Cole, great. Get it away from the fucking world title. Get it away from the world title. Go do it, because the world title being stuck as the secondary title to the ROH World Tag Team titles, and secondary to Adam Cole's Friendship, and secondary to the Devil, and secondary to Next Strong. Like, I'm sick of that shit. I'm done with that.
And secondary to Max being scared and vulnerable.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Max's
trying
vulnerability.
Trying to be a better man.
Right. It's like the ninth most important thing in MJF's world right now. Samoa Joe. I want the AEW World Title to be the most important fucking thing in this entire company, and it's not going to happen if MJF has it right now. It's just not.
To be fair, they have like 9 people chasing them for it, which does tell you that other people on the roster value it, and it's like, but you're right. What would be a really smart thing to do is have Jay White win the title, go off and do whatever he's going to do. You could have Hangman chase him, have whatever babyface you want chase Jay White, and you can have the Devil and his minions or whatever, either cost MJF the match or get involved in the match in some way. And then MJF and Adam Cole and the Devil and all the Devil's hoodlums and all that bullshit, they can be in their own little universe with that. And that storyline can carry on, and that can carry them for the next 3, 6, 12 months. And like you're saying, it's away from the world title, right? But they're not going to do that, and they can't do that.
No.
Because once Jay White stole the belt and he's running around with the stolen belt, you can't have MJF lose and then never get the physical belt back. He looks like an absolute geek. You just can't do it. He's
doing a great job of looking like a geek every week anyway, so I figure why not? More geek.
It's funny, though. It's like that shtick gets over with the live crowds, but I feel like the live crowds are so small now that it's just the super most hardcore fans that are left in the buildings, and it's obviously not connecting in a major way with television viewers.
He tried that scumbag. He tried to get that crowded chant scumbag yesterday, and they didn't.
Yeah, I know because he hasn't picked a character trait and stuck with it. Like I said, I think he's genuinely, the person is an insecure person, and he wants to be everything to everyone. And he's very sensitive to criticism, and he's trying to be a little bit of everything, and it just isn't working. And, that's the problem that I have with it. That and all of this pandering, he doesn't even do that well. He doesn't come across authentic as a pandering babyface. You have to put the right people in the right places in pro wrestling and exemplify their strengths, de-emphasize their weaknesses. And his strength is being a braggadocious shitbag. That's what he does well. Okay? He doesn't do this well. I'm not even saying a babyface theoretically can't work doing what he's doing right now, but it's not working for him. And, I understand the story is this pressure coming from all sides and all these people wanting his title, but the way he's expressing that pressure is out of character for this guy. And I don't want to repeat the 20-minute diatribe I did 2 weeks ago that you put a snippet of up on YouTube, but there's like 15 more minutes of that deconstruction of what MJF is doing as a babyface. But this insecurity was much more interesting in a heel package, where we all knew this was this guy who talked all this shit and talked a big game, but cheated to get anything he ever achieved. And deep down knew he wasn't good enough, right? That was the whole essence of the heel MJF character. Deep down, he outwardly, because he was insecure, he's telling you how great he is.
Right, but he needed that ring.
And he's better than you, and you know it.
He needed to cheat. Right. He needed the ring. He needed Wardlow. He needed all those things to win most times.
And the whole "I'm better than you and you know it" is he even knows that wasn't true as a heel. And now, like, this whole babyface turn and retaining that insecurity and vulnerability, it was too soon, and it wasn't earned. It wasn't earned through the storytelling. It was too soon. This was something they should have done years from now. Long after he had come up short in winning the world title. I will go back to what I said before he won the title. MJF should have never won the world title. Should have gone his whole career without winning it. That should be the one thing that he wasn't able to steal. The one thing he wasn't able to cheat his way into. The one piece that would never make, the one thing he wants worse than anything, and he cannot be whole because ultimately he's not good enough to win it. And then he has earned the babyface turn. You know what? This was all wrong. I've been living my life the wrong way. And then he should have that crisis of faith and go through all these changes and try to make himself a better. This shouldn't have happened for 10 years, Rich. And then at that point, you could tell the story of a changed man who does have the talent, but he needed to fix himself first, and then he can go chase the title. And they rushed through 10 years of storylines in a year, or 2 years or whatever. And that's why this isn't working for me. And that's why he comes off disingenuous and it doesn't come off authentic. And authenticity is so important. And, all of this is again, you circle back to the top. It might be why the consumer metrics are moving in the wrong direction, because I don't know if this is connecting with a lot of people. I think a lot of people think it's weird, let alone the goofier, more sports entertainment facets of the story and the show overall, which wasn't what AEW was necessarily built on. So
right, he's hard to nail down exactly what I'm supposed to feel when MJF comes out. What am I supposed to feel about this guy? How am I supposed to feel? And I think a lot of it is rooted too, that we've talked about a lot, is why would Joe Sixpack really give a shit if Adam Cole and him are friends, if Roderick Strong and Adam Cole are friends? There's a lot of stuff that we're supposed to assume that we're to care about. We're supposed to care about these people and their friendships, and I don't really give a shit about these guys' friendships. We haven't known these guys enough. We haven't known Adam Cole and Roderick Strong and the Kingdom enough to really give a shit. We knew MJF. You know what I mean? If you were just a watcher of AEW television, you knew MJF and you understood the struggles and the ups and the downs and all that sort of stuff, and the confidence and the braggadocious and the feuds and what he could do and all that sort of stuff. But it's really right now at this certain point of MJF, it's what am I supposed to feel about this guy? What am I supposed to think that this guy is or is doing? And I mean, right now, the trait that I think of is a guy that's overwhelmed, a guy that's trying to do too much. And that's both in kayfabe and in real life, in terms of stuff, a guy that just seems like he's doing too much. And that's why I really do think that at Full Gear, you could do a big time story here. You could do a big time reset and get things, I think, on a pretty good track. I think he shouldn't pick a partner for this tag match and just say, no, I'm going to go it alone because I don't trust anybody or whatever, or there's no one that's right for me. I don't trust Joe. I don't want to give him the title shot or whatever, and lose that and lose the title, and then go to this main event and the Devil comes out and he loses the world title. I think you can get a lot of stuff back on track by having MJF lose everything. And now he's left with no friends, no titles, nothing. He's got nothing left. Cole's out. This Devil's attacking him. Roderick's calling him
but to me, that all should have happened as a heel. He should have hit bottom as a heel. I'm
with you, but we're past that point. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're past that point, unfortunately.
Because that to me should have instigated the change in his philosophy.
Yes,
oh man,
absolutely. Yeah, after 5 years of failing to win the title, that should have been the absolute. Wardlow turns on him. He loses the ring. He's lost, 5 straight pay-per-view matches to win the title or whatever, and now he's just a shell of himself.
He's got no one.
Right.
He's
alone with his scarf, and he's in a bloody mess with his scarf.
Then I need to change my ways. And then you could have no one trust him. Be like, no, you've screwed every one of us, and then
trying to be partners. Hey, come with me, I'll help you out and stuff. And go, no, I've seen how this story goes, and no, I'm
That's
good,
how you tell this story. You don't tell it with, ow, the Chinese food is spicy, and here's some inflatable alligators, and I'm gonna do kangaroo kicks, and we're gonna rush through everything in 6 months instead of doing it. That's how you tell this story. But so now he's obviously, I don't think he's gonna lose Jay White. I don't think there's really any chance. And then we see where we go from here. Now, the Devil, it's probably Jack Perry, right? I mean, I don't
know.
They want you to think it's Adam Cole.
Great. I don't care.
Okay, they want you to think it's Cole.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that it's a terribly told story and it stinks, the whole Devil thing. And
I thought it was Britt Baker because she made devil fingers and something.
They're trying to make us think that this has been a good, logical story that they've been telling. It hasn't been. They've lied to us and told us that the Devil has attacked anyone that's close to MJF. When MJF
said that it wasn't just Excalibur. MJF got in that promo yesterday and goes, as you know, the Devil has been attacking everybody that is. I believe.
Yeah,
it's what? No. It's one thing for Excalibur to say, but it's one thing for MJF to clear his. And he's like, as you all have seen, the Devil has attacked everybody that I've been close to. I'm like, no, hold on a minute.
Because the story stinks and it's not. It's been incoherent. At least they've been mentioning it more and building it up more in the lead up. But it'll probably be Jack Perry, I would think. They want you to think it's Cole, and it'll probably be Jack Perry. But, and then from there, that will be his next program. I was told a long time ago, I was told in the fucking summer that all this shit was plotted out through December. So, World's End will probably be MJF versus Jack Perry, or, I've seen some people say, oh, well, maybe it'll be against the Dollar Store G1 winner, right? Whatever that thing's called, the Capital fucking Collision. What is that?
Classic.
Continental Classic.
Yeah.
So, but I think, don't work yourself into a shoot. Okay. I don't think that's what they're doing with that tournament. I think the tournament final is going to be on the pay-per-view, and that person might ultimately get a title shot, but, MJF's probably going to defend on that pay-per-view against whoever is revealed to be the devil, and then where do you go with Jay White and the Bullet Club after he loses? I don't know. That doesn't matter. That's just,
this is what I'm saying, man. So
that's
many
left
things
in
can
MJF's
be solved.
weight.
Oh my God. It's like, I've now reached the point like I did with the Cody and Roman thing, where I'm like, the story is better without the title. The story makes more sense if he loses the title. Everything makes more sense. Jay White and the Bullet Club make more sense. Samoa Joe can, there's this idea too that Samoa Joe can be his partner. Shining Wizard put it in our the Note Up chat room, is that MJF can ultimately pick Samoa Joe. Bell rings on the ROH tag match, and Joe just turns around and decks MJF, going, I don't really give a shit. I don't need to help you. You told me if I team with you, I got a title shot. There, I team with you, and I beat your ass up. Now you lose, and the Guns win the ROH titles. That makes all the sense in the world too. Then you get to the main event, and the Devil comes out. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world for him to just lose all this. And you're right, it's not going to happen. And I'm working myself into a shoot, fantasy booking this stuff. But man, so many things are much more clean and so much easier. And all the stories can be so much better told if he loses this title. But he's not. I know it's a 5% chance. I'd say might be even less. It might even be less.
I think it's a 0% chance. But I was, the alleged emergency meeting last week after the bad Dynamite, where I heard an alleged part of that conversation was one of the key people in charge of the company explaining to MJF that you can't give the rub to all your friends, whether it's the Acclaimed or whoever else, if you yourself are not over enough for people to get the rub off of you. Therefore, we have to keep having you beat everybody in order to get over more if you want to start giving everybody else the rub. And I just had to stare at that when I saw it, and it's just, it's mind boggling. I thought it was going to go another way, and that, okay, maybe this isn't working and we need to change course. No, you need to keep beating everyone on the roster so we can get you over to the point where if you want to give Max Castor the rub, it'll actually work, as opposed to, or the Righteous or whoever it is that you think you're doing a solid for, which all of that doesn't make any sense either, because beating the Righteous 1-on-2 isn't giving them any kind of rub, no matter how over or not over you are. That doesn't help anyone. It's just that, and I know people get annoyed. I don't care. It's that WWE brain, and there's too many people in that company that have it, and there's too many cooks. There's too many people contributing ideas, and there's a scattered vision, and it's all a mess. But I don't expect them to lose. Anyway, that's the main event. I think he's going to win. I was also told months and months ago that, and I thought it was a joke. I genuinely thought it was a joke, that MJF pitched to beat the entire Bullet Club one at a time. And I was like, well, that just sounds like a disgruntled wrestler. Yeah, well, here we are. I mean, he's, he beat Juice Robinson. He's going to beat the Guns probably by himself, right? And then he's going to beat Jay White. And it's like, he just wants to cut through the rod, and I don't know if he's necessarily a selfish guy. I know he wants to help his friends in the company and those things for sure. I don't think he likes the older veterans that Tony brings in. I don't think MJF's a fan of that. I've heard some stories that he's not, your Adam Copeland's and whatnot.
MJF guy, I think he's actually pretty cool. I think the storyline's pretty great, actually. Now,
yeah, he wants to be
Copeland. I'm actually into this story. I like it. Yeah,
and he wants to do well.
Who's
for
the devil going to be?
Homegrowns.
Who's the devil going to be?
Daniel Garcia's and the people like that.
Yeah,
he did that photo shoot last week with them, and that's another example. Like, it's like the idea is, what kind of rub did Daniel Garcia get off of losing that match last week? Nothing. It didn't mean anything. And it's like, the idea is he's not a big enough star where people can get the rub off of him beating him.
No.
And it's true. He's not, from that standpoint, the person who told him that was right, but I don't know if the right idea is full steam ahead. Max must cut through the entire roster. I don't know if that's the answer either. Or is this one of those things where if they just stick with it for 2 years and eventually gets over like the bloodline? I don't know. Is Sami Zayn going to come and kickstart that one too?
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's not impossible.
That's the secret ingredient there. So is Cody going to jump back, and is Sami Zayn going to come to ensure that this takes off like the bloodline did? Maybe. I think Cody will be back at some point, but that guy's just the ultimate worker, that guy. But yeah, so I don't know. That's your main event.
Yeah, and the problem, kind of wrap up the main event. The problem that I'm going to have with the main event, and I think everyone else is going to kind of have this too, is we're all waiting for a devil thing, right? We're all waiting for Roger to get wheeled down. We're waiting for a devil thing. You're not going to be invested in minute 12 of this match. You don't care. Jay White's...
AEW crowds lately haven't been invested in the matches. They're invested in the entrances and the signature stuff. How does that sound familiar to you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's what these crowds have been. Where are the red hot start to finish AEW crowds that we used to have? They're gone. We haven't had those, and I'm hoping LA will be different for Full Gear. I hope it's 11, 12,000 people, a vintage AEW crowd where everything is over, and not these WWE style crowds where they're just not interested in anything until the end of the match. Or they'll chant "This is awesome" at a terrible match like they did for Sky Blue and Red Velvet last night, which was a horrendous, one of the worst TV matches you'll ever see. And there was a small pocket of fans chanting "This is awesome." I don't want to say it was the whole building, but these are different kind of crowds now. So you're right; they will probably, I don't know. I think they'll be into the, as long as MJF is doing, he knows how to get a crowd going with his shtick. So if he has to put Jay White in the corner and do 10 punches, so they'll count 1, 2. If he has to do the kangaroo kick, which I'm sure he will.
So this is Hogan 95, man. We're there.
He's not going to let the crowd be dead because he has all of his little cheap shortcuts that he'll do to ensure that the crowd is alive for his match. But yeah, the crowds have not been great. I think the crowds have fundamentally changed the way that they react to the company. And that's one of the problems, one of the differences.
Well, and
these
just
days.
I think in this particular match, you're not going to be watching it to say, "Oh man, I wonder who's going to get the win here." I think I'm going to be sitting and saying, "All right, when's the Devil coming out? When's the Roddy coming out? When's the Kingdom coming out? When's Cole coming out if he's going to, you know what I mean? Like that. That's more the vibe that I have, and I think that's kind of a weird place that we've come to with AEW, where the world title is not all right, this guy and this guy are going to face off, and they're going to have a fucking tremendous match, and you got to be on the edge of your seat the entire time because you don't know when this match is going to end. You don't know what you're going to see. This is kind of one of those classic, whether it be WCW or where you're just kind of like, all right, yeah, well, that this match is not going to end until the Devil is involved in some way, or Roddy or Cole or the Kingdom or Joe, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many people that you're assuming will get involved at some point that you just. Me at home, I'm not going to be invested in minute 14 of this match because I know none of this shit's going to really matter until that Devil rolls down.
Well, look, this is what this company is now, and everybody waiting for the pivot. It's not coming.
No.
Okay.
No.
The question is whether this strategy, whether this presentation of the product is going to be something that can turn their consumer metrics around, or if they're not really necessarily concerned with that as much as let's get our media rights deal bag and let's run 12 pay-per-views a year. And it really won't matter if there's 4,000 people at our television tapings. And it really won't matter if our television ratings are dropping at a pace that's outpacing our network or outpacing the loss of television homes, because the money's in the, it's the WWE model. For how many years there were WWE tarping off half of the building for SmackDowns and drawing 5,000 fans for Monday Night Raw in gigantic buildings, but yet setting financial records every year because of the media rights deals. Rich, we threw up our hands on that however many years ago when they signed their first big one. And we're like, well, we can't analyze this company anymore because none of this shit matters because they're just going to make more money than ever regardless. And that's kind of where AEW is going. And that's where you want to go as a wrestling company right now, because that's where the money is, and it's more important to secure the media right deal and to you double your pay-per-view if it's going to double your pay-per-view revenue, and then maybe you're not worried that your attendance has dropped 2,000 fans over the course of 2 years. Maybe that's not the chief concern, like it wasn't for WWE. But what it does tell us, what we can still analyze, is that what they're presenting isn't necessarily connecting with the audience. That we can analyze. And honestly, regardless of my feelings, people know what I think of their current product. But the consumer metrics are telling me that more people agree with me. No matter how many people on whatever wretched, whether it's Reddit or Twitter, any of these wretched apps disagree, I don't know. The consumer metrics seem to agree that this has not been a positive direction that the company has taken. But
I'll tell you, I got a buy one get one free ticket offer for Dynamite this week in Chicago.
I'm sure you did.
That is now. Did I buy my tickets 2 hours before I got that email? Yes, Joe, I did. But
oh
that
God,
really sucks. I should have waited, but I was like, it's Chicago. They announced the Continental Classic. No, I'm not. These tickets are going to sell. I might as well just get them. And then 2 hours later, I get the buy one get one free offer. And I'm like, all right.
Let's go through the rest of this card because we've done over an hour on this already.
Yes, let's do it. I don't think there's a ton of else that I need to really dig that heavily into. Orange Cassidy and John Moxley for the international title. Obviously, Orange Cassidy, the champion, going in and defending the title against Moxley. He said it himself, John Moxley, course correction. We're getting back on track to exactly where this was going to be. I have almost no doubt in my mind that Moxley's winning this match, defeating Orange Cassidy, winning back the title, and then hopefully whatever they had planned for Moxley before he had the concussion and made the pivot, the switch, the whatever to Phoenix that night or whatever. I think Moxley gets it back and they go with whatever they were going to do with Moxley and an international title before. And then Cassidy, again, I'm still kind of at a loss for what the hell was supposed to be done for him or what's going to be done for him. I think after all the work that they did with him in the international title, the fact that they've really just had nothing for him since then is disappointing. But hopefully now that they can kind of maybe move past this, Moxley gets the international title back, and hopefully Cassidy can move on to hopefully bigger and better things. But I'm kind of dubious on that right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been using the terminology course correction with getting this title back on John Moxley for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then last night he says it's time for a course correction. You got to ask some questions.
You do have to ask some questions.
You do
have to ask some questions.
That's all we'll say. You got to ask some questions. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, that's exactly what you just said. And then they're going to get to telling whatever story they were going to tell. He probably would have just won it back from Phoenix if Phoenix didn't also get hurt. So,
right.
So now he has to win it back from the guy he originally won it from. And I really thought, I was really excited about the idea that Orange Cassidy was losing up when he lost the title the first time.
We all thought that. After all out, we all thought that.
Well, now I don't give this company any benefit of the doubt with that sort of thing. They have to prove it to me now because that wasn't the case. He was doing shtick with Hook, eating potato chips, and he was in a worse position than he was when he was champion. So, but I think they missed the boat on that.
They did.
That was the week to do it when he came out and cut that promo. If you were going to do something and move him up, and they chose to go in this direction instead because the top of the card is occupied by devil storylines and MJF being vulnerable and everything else. So I guess you just, it's whoever MJF wants to work with at this point. He's the top star, he's the champion, and that's the way it goes. So
the Cassidy thing that bothered me the most is that he came back like on that Dynamite that week after this whole story about, oh my God, this guy is just working too much and his body's broken down and he can't keep going. He can't keep doing this. He loses to Moxley at All Out, gets a standing ovation afterwards, and everyone assumes that it's like, all right, I'm going to go take a break. And I think he even tweeted that out. I think he's like, I'm going to go take a break or whatever. And then he's back like 3 days later, and it's like, oh, all right. He's just kind of back on top. And like right then and there, I was like, ooh, I don't like that. That's a bad start. Like I would have taken this guy off of TV for weeks.
Me too.
Have him come back and have him say, I'm refreshed. I've proven that I'm a superior, like whatever you want to do. And it's got to be in Orange Cassidy shtick or whatever. But you could still have the shtick happen and have him say, now I'm going for the world title. Now I'm going for this title. Now I'm going for you. I'm going for, like, he had to move up. And he's eating potato chips with Hook. And it's like, oh, all right, we're done now.
He should have disappeared until people forgot about him and then came back as a big surprise to do whatever you were going to do with him.
Right. I healed up and I'm back and better than ever, yada, 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 whatever. But
they missed the boat on that. And so we'll see what happens here.
Yeah. See if they can get it back on track there. Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne versus Adam Copeland, Darby Allin, and Sting.
Look, I think all of this has been well done. It's and then Sting will have the one more pay-per-view match after this, presumably against Darby Allin, babyface, probably still undefeated. So, if they're smart, I mean, why have him go undefeated this long and then have him lose this match? Have him go into that Darby Allin match undefeated and have Darby beat him and do the emotional send-off and everything else. So, I think they'll win. And then I guess the Adam Copeland, Christian Cage thing, I doubt this is the end of it. They'll have a singles match either in Wembley or at, I don't know if they could stretch it off that long. Maybe they will. I don't know. But they're going to have a big singles match on one of these other shows at some point.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to have Sting's team lose. I don't see any reason to have Copeland lose. And yeah, you have Nick Wayne right there for you. You have Luchasaurus right there for you. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. Copeland can pin Luchasaurus.
Nick Wayne should lose.
Or Nick Wayne. Yeah, Copeland can pin
He's fucking
Nick Wayne.
18. It doesn't
matter.
It's fine.
He'll survive. So, yeah. No, that's definitely the best move. And then, yeah, move on to a Copeland Christian Cage thing on its own. And yeah, hold off Sting. I don't know how many other pay-per-views he's going to do. Like, I don't know if he's going to be involved in World's End and all that sort of stuff.
Right?
Well, the Revolution's when he's done, but I don't know if he's going to be involved in World's End. Is what I meant. Yeah, you do have that. So other
he's two more at the most, unless they add another one in January,
right?
Which they could.
Right. But
which they absolutely could.
But we're ticking the time. So I guess there's the excitement there that, hey, this is one of the last few times you're going to be able to see Sting. I assume it's going to be plundery. I can't imagine they're going to go bell to bell and just in the ring, pillar to post type style. I imagine we're going to have some guys going outside and some shit, because almost all the Sting matches have been that kind of shtick heavy stuff, and I think that's probably for the better. And I think if you're going to try to maximize what you can do with a Copeland, like, that's probably a good idea as well, to do that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think that's probably where you go with that. But, yeah, I can't say I'm super, super excited about this match, but I think it'll be fine. Sting's over-delivered pretty much in all of his AEW matches, and I'm sure that these guys have something good they can cook up here. But AEW Women's World Title match, I mean, you can get excited about this if you want. That's going to be to your own detriment, man. Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm. This shit's going to be shtick heavy. It's going to be in black and white. She's going to be throwing shoes and kicking her heels up and smacking Shida's butt and pulling fruit out of her ass and stuff. Like, if you want that, knock yourself out, man. People are lying to themselves. They think this bell's going to ring and Tony's going to go out there and work a hard, solid 15-minute professional wrestling match. I mean, you're out of your damn mind if you think that that's going to happen. Hey, I'll be more than happy to be wrong, and I'll apologize on the instant reaction, but she's coming out to black and white and pulling fruit out of her ass, and this is going to be shtick heavy, and I'm not for any of it. So,
yeah, I've said what I had to say about this. This is Tony Khan's pet project, though. He is 1,000,000% behind this. A lot of it is from his brain. I assume it's Tony Khan, RJ City, and Tony Storm who have come up with a lot of this. So it's full steam ahead. I think if you're going to do the All About Eve storyline with Mariah May, I think that would be better suited to not involve the title. I guess you could argue that Toni Storm should have the title because Mariah May should her obsession or her trying to fool Toni Storm with being obsessed or whatever direction they're going to go with it should ultimately be to win the title from her, right? But they started this before Toni Storm was champion, so. And if the new mystery signee is going to be Mercedes Moné, or if it's going to be Ronda Rousey, or if it's going to be a woman, now I know Fightful was saying that people in the company are saying it's not Moné, whatever amount of stock you want to put in that, because you never know people in the company what their motives would be to try to shoot that down. But if that's the case, you'd want, obviously if Sasha's coming in, you're going to push her to the top and build the title around her. So it would be best to get Toni Storm and Mariah May away from that. But again, this is like the same conversation we just had with MJF. They're this is the direction of this company now, this kind of stuff. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Toni Storm won.
Well, it wouldn't shock me at all if Mariah May comes out and costs Shida the match and Toni Storm wins that way. And that's the little bit of, look what I did for you.
Things.
Look what I did for you, Timeless Tony. I won you the title or whatever. And again, I'm saying I'm getting ready for an interference in this match. Like, I'm getting ready, and I'm telling myself that this match is not going to matter until Mariah May comes out and gets involved. And again, that's another match on the show that I'm not going to sit down and say, all right, let's see what's going to happen in this match. Like, I'm sitting here and waiting for someone to interfere and someone to come in, and because Mariah May is going to get involved in some way, whether she helps or hurts, we'll find out. But You could totally buy, she comes out, costs you to the match, and then the story is, oh, why don't you like me? I helped you win the title. But you know what I mean? Like, just bull. Ugh, God, yuck. Get out of here.
Yeah, well, the idea is that May would want to be, if they're going to mirror the movie in any way, is kind of like working Tony and building her trust to kind of take her spot and replace her. But if there's no title at stake, then what is she really? Why are we even doing this? This is so fucking stupid. This is, you know, this is like, we're getting to the point where it's like breaking down WWE storylines, and it's like, this is stupid. Our audience doesn't care. We don't care. This is just, I hate to just be that reductive, but it's dumb. How can I care about this? I don't. And I'm trying to put effort in like I do. I don't care, Rich. It's going to be in black and white. This is all a waste of my fucking time.
But she's going to have an orange come from her butt. Isn't that hilarious, though?
Oh, she eats bananas with the peel on it because she's crazy. Fucking Christ. It's bad. I don't know. I don't care what they do anymore. Yeah. When it comes to, I can't care.
A match that I do now care about. Maybe didn't care about it a couple weeks ago, but I'm back in. Texas Death Match, Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland. I thought Page's promo was fantastic to get things back on track.
Real quick before, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to bring this up when we talked about Toni Storm. One more quick point. She has not been over in the buildings a couple of times that she's wrestled. She wrestled, I think it was Sky Blue. I want to say Sky Blue and
Kira Hogan.
Kira Hogan.
Yep.
And she came out for the entrance and people popped at the music, right? And then the bell rang and nobody gave a fuck about either one of those matches. And you could argue small sample size. You could argue opponents that nobody gives a shit about. Although if you would listen to the way people respond to us, the Sky Blue is the biggest fucking star in the company. We'll get to that. But the fact remains, I think people enjoy the vignettes and the pre-tapes with Toni, and then they don't know what to do with her when she's in the ring.
Right, because what am I supposed to feel? Like I said with the MJF stuff.
Yeah.
When you get when now that you're in the ring and the bell's rung, what am I supposed to think about you? When this is the problem with these one-note characters that are just done for laughs, is that when the bell rings, what is the fan? What are you as a fan that's bought your ticket to sit down and watch this person professionally wrestle? What are you supposed to feel about this person? What are their motivations?
I'm going to tell you what the fans
What do I want to watch?
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
They're going, when is she going to throw the shoe?
Right.
When is she going to say tits out? That's what you're doing as a fan, because that's what's over. Quote unquote over. She's not over. You know, they didn't care whether she won or lost those matches. Those matches got nothing. So I'm curious at the pay-per-view how the fans are going to react to the match itself. This one's, you don't have the excuse of, oh, no one cares about Kira Hogan. Oh, no one cares about Sky Blue. It's a title match. Sheeta, her role in this has been like what we're saying. This is preposterous. This woman thinks it's 1940.
Right. Similar to Jay White. I like that at least I do enjoy that the other half of all these matches are like, what the fuck is going on here? And Sheeta's doing the same thing. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, what's going on here?
See, but Jay White is just, the thing with MJF is he's finally met his match in terms of someone who's just as or more clever than he is on the stick. And he's never really been in that position since Punk. Right? So it's like, I think a lot of that Jay White stuff is stuff that White, knows is our quality jet. Whereas Sheeta is just doing what she's being told to do. This is the story. The story is this woman's crazy. Act like she's crazy. But, yeah. So anyway, I'm very curious to see just how. But listen, it's full steam ahead because Tony Khan loves this fucking act. I mean, he is 1,000% behind this. And he's one of the people. I mean, I think he even said today that creatively he's one of the people behind it. So, I mean, that's public information at this point. Anyway, you were talking. I didn't mean.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Tell me why you were into that Hangman thing. Go ahead.
So, Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, Texas Death Match. I thought, and I think I've made it clear on audio, and if I haven't, like the home invasion thing was stupid. We didn't need that. The story didn't need that. The story was perfectly fine. These guys cost each other matches. That's enough of a story to be told. They took it up a notch with the home invasion thing. The problem is they did not follow up with that notch that they took it up with the home invasion. If you're going to do a guy does a home invasion on national television, then now you have to change the story a little bit. Things have to change a little bit. You just can't have this guy show up on the next television show and get mic time. And you can't have Adam Page come out for his ROH 6-man world tag titles match and go, all right, guys, let's do this. And if that Swerve guy comes out, I'm going to go after him. But I care about these. Like, no, you got to change everything. Everything has to change once the guy does a home invasion and fucks with the guy's baby. You know what I mean? Like, they took it up that notch. Not me. Not you, Joe. They took it up that notch, but they didn't follow up that notch. Like, what I would have done, just kind of fantasy booking here. For the record, I think they got it back on track a little bit with the Page thing, but what I would have done is, if you have to do a home invasion, if you must do a home invasion show, which I would just say, if I had the old pencil, as they say, I simply just wouldn't do angles where guys invade people's homes and fuck with their children. But if you must do a home invasion, the way to do this story would be AEW says, we do not condone anything that Swerve Strickland did, and he has been suspended indefinitely or whatever, and he's gone. And you don't see Swerve. Swerve's off TV. You see Page, though, and Page is coming out and saying, I want Swerve. Give me Swerve at Full Gear. I don't care what it has to get done. I don't care what I have to sign. I don't care who has to do it. I want that guy at Full Gear. I'm getting my revenge because he fucked with my family, and now I'm going to kill him. Like, that is the way you do it. They did it the complete opposite. Swerve came out and just kind of swagger walked about it, and people said, oh, that was quite ridiculous that Swerve Strickland invaded this man's house. And it's like, yeah, it is. It is kind of ridiculous that this guy committed this massive crime on television, and we're all just going to shrug and move on, and Hangman Page is going to go about his normal business and then start attacking this guy a little bit here and there. But from AEW's standpoint, it was absolutely absurd that the company was just like, whatever. That's fine. It's okay, Swerve. Just don't do it again, pal, if you do it. So they fucked that story up right there. I'm going to say that point blank, that's the story to tell, is that Swerve can't be in the building. He has been suspended indefinitely. Hangman, the onus has to be on Hangman to get Swerve back. The onus has to be on Hangman to tell AEW management, or if you want to get Tony Khan involved in the story or whatever. He's been involved in the stories. This is a great one. Adam Page comes out and says, Tony, I don't care what I got to do. I don't care what has to happen. That guy, I want him at Full Gear. I'm going to beat his ass. Give me whatever to do. I'll sign off on it. You can do lights out. Whatever the hell you want to do. I want that guy at Full Gear. That's the story to do. They didn't do that. But I think they got this on track a little bit. I thought the Page promo was really, really, really good because he had the floor. He didn't let Swerve say a word. Swerve started, and right as Swerve started, Adam Page got on the mic and said, no, I'm going to control it. I'm going to tell you everything I need to tell you right now. And he cut deep on him a little bit. He talked about getting fired from WWE. He talked about his fiance breaking up with him. He talks about not being able to see his kids, that sort of stuff that then got Swerve going, all right, now I'm pissed. And I liked where we got. I liked that nobody touched each other. I love the idea that these guys can't touch each other. I love the idea that Page was beating up Nana and Swerve couldn't stop him or intervene or whatever. So this match got hot. I thought that promo was fantastic. I thought the angle was fantastic. And I'm back in on this match. And this is probably my most anticipated match of the entire night because I do think it can be really, really good. These are two guys that I do see a ton of potential in. I just think that the story got kind of screwy and not done exactly the way that I think it should have been done, and done in kind of a ridiculous way. But I will say they got this, I think, back on track, where a couple weeks ago I was like, oh, this thing is off the rails here if we're doing this home invasion stuff and Swerve has no repercussions from it or whatever. Like, this is kind of weird. This is kind of silly. But I do think that this angle got it back on track, and I'm really, really excited for this match.
Yeah, the one thing you said there that I strongly agree with is when Hangman brought up his fiance breaking up with him and getting fired from his previous job and all that, because the one thing that I feel Swerve has been lacking is some authenticity to his presentation.
Yeah, he hasn't been a human. He's been an evil comic book villain.
Correct. He hasn't been a human. That's the best way to put it. The comic book villain laugh that he does, that's so put on and fake. The home invasion in itself is just so silly and goofy. In pro wrestling, I could accept a lot of things, obviously, but they have to take place in the context and in the building and where the pro wrestling is happening. Once you go outside the pro wrestling universe and do something at someone's house, it's too goofy for me. That's where I can't suspend my disbelief.
Unless you want to now follow up. Like, I wouldn't do it. I think it's too goofy too. But now the onus is on if you tell that story, that AEW has to follow up and say, we do not condone the actions of Swerve Strickland,
right,
and this is unacceptable, and we do not, he will suspend.
Completely agree.
You got to take it to that level, because you took it to that level.
If you're going to do it,
you took it to that level. So now you have to follow up on that.
It can't be like a standard pro wrestling angle in the back. If you must do this, which you should,
which again, don't,
because
I just wouldn't. But yeah,
the fact that you did it, it's now the same level as Brian Pillman threatening to shoot Steve Austin, or Seth Rollins fucking masturbating on whose furniture.
I don't know whose furniture was he fucking around on. I don't remember now.
Whatever that was, or Bray Wyatt, the Fiend threatening to eat the Miz's baby or whatever, which this one was very similar to, actually, because
Right.
he went and breathed on Hangman's kid, allegedly. That's where you break my suspension of disbelief, unless, like you're saying, you make it clear this was universe, instead of making it a universe breaking thing where we can't buy into it, you have a strong response to it. And like you're saying, it's Hangman. It has to get this guy his job back.
Right. Hangman's going to come into the middle of a match and just say, no. I told you last week that I wanted I wanted Swerve.
I know you fired him, but I want to get my hands on him.
Right. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll give up anything. I'll do whatever I want. I need that guy in the ring. I want him in the ring. You bring him back and I'll sign. Yeah, that's what I envisioned was going to happen. And then they didn't. They just did it like a normal backstage attack and then just decided it was a normal backstage attack. And I'm like, come on,
it comes across so silly.
Right.
But I do think it was good that Hangman sort of made, and like you said, Swerve reacted like a human finally.
Right.
In some ways.
He didn't, when he said you can't even see your kids.
Yeah.
Hey, and Swerve then kind of got taken aback. He took a step back then. And that was done well.
And he didn't respond to it like a gimmick. And that's why I've been a little slower than everyone else in coming around on, Swerve's the top. He's got to be a world champion. No, let's pump the brakes. He can get there.
Absolutely.
But I do think he has a lot of development to go through in terms of a little more authenticity is needed, I believe, because he's a little too cartoonish at this point. And that's something, that will come. I think it will come. I'm confident it will. And maybe this was a good step in that direction for him. Now, the thing is, I think he's going to lose again, which he loses a lot when it comes down to, a blow-off match. He's lost most of them, if not all of them at this point. And if you have a heel, if you have a babyface champion in MJF, you say, all right, well, it makes more sense for the heel to win, right? Because you want to set up challengers for MJF. But the counter to that would be MJF has all these challengers lined up already. Samoa Joe and Wardlaw and all these guys. So
Wardlaw, I can't believe every time he shows up, I'm like, we're doing Wardlaw. Get out of here.
They're doing Wardlaw.
Away.
And it's like
nobody wants you. It's like,
so I don't know.
They do those pre-tapes. Like, MJF took everything from me. Go away.
We don't care anymore. You've been exposed.
Care? God.
So
back of the line. Back of the line, pal. Sorry.
So my point here is the timing isn't great.
No.
For Swerve to win a feud like this, because then what? MJF's not ready for him yet. So because he's got all this other stuff he has to deal with before then. So that's why I think Hangman will win. And then we see where we go from there. But yeah.
I think the match is going to rock.
Oh, and I do think Swerve needs genuine heat. I think too many people think he's cool. This company doesn't have any heat. Like it has Christian Cage. He gets real heat. Don Callis gets real heat. Nobody else gets real heat.
No.
And I feel like
you're
Swerve,
on the money about what he could do. And I was actually gonna bring this up.
All right,
but
you want me to lay it out then? I'll lay it out.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because I do think that there's something in Paige's promo that can be the jumping off point for it. But yeah, but give you the thing that you talked about on the Dynamite review.
So if Swerve wants to start getting some real heat, real visceral, people booing, wanting him to lose, wanting him to get his ass kicked. People love the na-na dance. It's gotten over because it's great. I do the na-na dance. Okay? I am in my living room. I'm swerving when I drive. I'm swinging my hand over my head. Who doesn't love the na-na dance? What Swerve should start doing, because it will infuriate the fans and get some real heat, is stop Nana from doing the dance. When they come out for the entrance and Nana starts doing the dance, Swerve should give him a look. He should mean mug him. To say, I almost as if to say, I told you not to do that shit. Stop goofing around. And Nana should look concerned and beg off and say, put his hands, okay, all right, I understand. I'm not going to do the dance. If he stops Nana from doing the dance, that will infuriate the fans because the fans want to see the dance. And it's so easy and it's right there. That's such a simple way to get real heat from the fans just by not allowing Nana to do that dance. And just side-eyeing him, threatening him, have Nana beg off, Have Nana like be close to doing the dance, but know that he can't do it. And it's right there on a fucking silver platter, something that Swerve can do to get people to hate him or to boo him, as opposed to saying, oh, he's really cool, I think he should be world. No, he's a heel right now. You're not supposed to like him right now. You're supposed to want Hangman to beat the shit out of him. You're supposed to want this guy to lose. So anyway, I think that's a very simple way, very low effort for him to get some actual heat.
No, and I think that you have a great jumping off point with this promo where Hangman's like, you don't see it. This guy's using you. He's doing his little dance and selling money on your back. You're doing all the work, and he's over here making a whole business off of you or whatever. And this could be done perfectly because now Hangman's probably going to beat Swerve, and now that can sort of be the point where Swerve can walk out the next time, and Nana does his dance, and he looks back at him, and he's like, yeah, you know what? Hangman was right. Like, no dance. I'm the man.
There's people in the chat saying, oh, he stopped him from doing it. You're not listening. Nana does the dance every week. I don't care if he stopped him from doing it once.
No. He's got to come out. He has to start, get his hands up in the air, and Swerve's got to turn around and go, no. I'm the star. Right.
This has to be a thing.
Right. Instead
that
of
the commentary emphasizes.
How about instead of a draft, let's have this be a thing? A guy getting heat on a professional wrestling show.
This has to be a thing where every time they come out, he gives them the look. Nana has to stop. Nana is scared. And the announcers go on and on about what a bully Swerve Strickland is.
Right. And now Nana can do the dance in the midst of a match or whatever. If Swerve is down or he's not paying attention or whatever, he could do the dance or whatever. But when they're on the entrance ramp, he's not doing that dance. He could start doing that dance, but I need Swerve to turn around and go, no. We're business here. We're serious, and I'm the star. You're walking behind me. Let's go.
And deny the fucking dance to the fans and everybody else. The fans don't get the dance. So that would be one small thing he can do to start getting some more heat. Anyway.
All right. But this one time 3 weeks ago.
No, that's not the point. Like, I understand. All right, maybe
we're getting booze. We're trying to get booze here. We're trying to get
it needs to be a thing.
Right, we're trying
to deny people what they want.
Yes.
And then you could build to a big moment where he does the fucking dance. Some point down the line for an enormous pop somewhere.
Joe, it used to be better. We used to get these things. People used to understand this stuff. Anyway, the Young Bucks. Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Golden Jets, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. What do you want me to tell you? It's Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega versus the Bucks.
Well, I mean, this Bucks, it's for the right to challenge anytime for the tech, and the whole title challenger situation in this company, they don't care anymore. So I don't. It used to be you had to win matches and move up the rankings and earn title shots. Now you can just. Now you can just declare yourself a contender.
I want the title opportunity, and you get a title opportunity while you stare horizontally at a television screen. It's like, all right, whatever, fine, great.
Or I want to challenge, like Mark Briscoe just decided, I'm going to wrestle Jay White for his title shot.
Okay.
Why didn't Jay White tell him to go fuck off? Like, I don't understand. Like, why would Jay White agree to that? Like. This one I at least understand because the stakes were laid out on both sides. If we beat you, you can't team with Jericho anymore. So then Jericho was like, all right, well, hold on. If we beat you,
got to put something on the line too. Yeah, you guys got to put something on the line then too.
Right. So this one I understand a little more. I don't understand Willow Nightingale never losing a number one contender match and getting a title shot 4 days later. I don't understand that. She loses a number one contender match and she hadn't won a singles match on TV since like fucking March or something, like whatever it was. And then she's just getting a title shot. Like, they do a lot of that now. And it's like, I don't know. It's easier and it's lazier and it's easier. That's the one thing about the rankings. It kept the booking honest.
Every match had to matter. Every win and every loss had it didn't have to be like, oh my God, but it at least kept, like you said, it kept you honest. You had to think, all right, does this person, who needs to win this match and who needs to lose this match? At least stops you to make you think for a second, okay, right, this person needs to win because of this. And that's it. It ensured a little bit.
It ensured your booking was logical. Because if you knew someone, you wanted to give someone a title shot on a pay-per-view, you had to make sure you built them up properly. You couldn't just have them, like Willow, lose a bunch of matches and then just decide she's getting a title shot. That wouldn't have flown when the rankings were around. That was the value in the rankings, not the rankings themselves and people
I know, and people got
who should have
so
been
dumb about that, and we were just fighting it week after week after week. And
oh, well, why is this person ranked? All they do is win on dark and blah, blah, blah. No, the value in the rankings was keeping Tony Khan and the booking honest, and helping ensure that everything was logical. But it was easier not to have that obstacle in your way. Now you can be lazy and just give anybody a title shot anytime you want, and you lose another thing that used to set you apart from the other wrestling company. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to this match. I think for a match that's been built really in the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, they've done a good job with it. I'm not thrilled with, we tell a 2-year story or whatever it is of the Elite falling apart and coming back together, and now they're just falling apart again. I mean, didn't we just do this? Didn't we have resolution? Didn't they all just agree to come? And now we're just kind of doing the Elite is fractured again.
Yeah, it's weird because then the Bucks are like, I don't know why we brought the Elite back together if we were just going to break up again. And it's like, I don't know either. I guess I have
you
the
do
same
that
question.
big, long, emotional story, which look, I don't know if necessarily we were super invested in the Elite coming back together. I don't want to speak for you. I didn't really care either way. But the hardcore AEW fan loved that fucking story. Okay? And they were emotionally invested in it. And when the Elite finally did come back together, there were people putting up pictures saying, look, they're standing in the same spots they were standing in 2019.
Right, yeah.
You know, like people really were dorks about that. And were really in a good way, like emotion.
Yeah,
you want people to be emotionally invested in the fucking product.
And you want the wrestlers to care. And that's a sense of caring as, we should stand in the same spots that we did. And, you know.
Yeah, and maybe because I'm not a hardcore freakazoid, it didn't move me the way it moved other people. Different stories are going to move people different ways. But then now we're just tearing that apart again and starting over with that. Like, if I were someone who was deeply invested in the Elite coming back together, I'd feel cheated and be like, oh, we're doing this again. Like, what the fuck? We just told this story and we just ended. And then there was, what was our big payoff for the Elite coming back together? The ROH 6-man tag team titles.
Yes.
That was the big payoff to everybody being friends again. The secondary 6-man tag team titles, not even the most important set. I can't believe they have 2 sets of 6-man tag team, but not even the most important set of 6-man tag team titles.
I guess
that
you got
was
the Anarchy. I guess the Anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing. I guess that's it, right?
I guess. I don't know. But it still seems rather shallow and fleeting to just break them up again or to have them all be at odds again this quickly. It's a little too soon to go back into that well to me, but here we are. And, we see what happens with that. So
I'm really interested in the quality of this match, not because I know the Bucks are going to deliver and I have no doubt but Jericho's been working pretty hard lately, man. I watched that DDT match that we're going to talk about a little bit later. I watched the you called it the Game Boy Street fight on your TV reviews, the Like a Dragon, the Like a Dragon thing match, the Kenny Omega. He was he took a fucking destroyed himself in that match, man. That God, the bumps he was taking, the thing onto the crates, the pallet or whatever was just nuts. I think they'll be good to go. These guys are always good to go, but I do wonder a little bit. It's a lot of work for Chris Jericho in a week. He's been busting his ass, and it's not like he took it easy on any of those matches. So I'm sure I think this match will be great. So
I'm just curious what's going on with the Don Callis stuff with Jericho and Omega. Was that the blow off? Because they beat Brian Cage, who was kind of a paid mercenary to be on their team. So they didn't really beat any of Callis's guys. And now they're doing this kind of offshoot thing with the Bucks. And, we see where all that, I guess, goes. So I don't know. It's, again, it's very scattered booking focus. Like, do Jericho and Kenny, what's the deal? Do they still have beef with Callis? Does Callis still have beef with them? Is that over? Is it not over? We don't know. They're doing this thing with the Bucks now. So
it just feels like we're trying to put a good match on the show, and that's kind of essentially what we're doing here. And that's fine. I'm okay with that, but I do get your overall points. And then the rest of the show, man, I we'll go real quick on this. AEW TBS title 3-way. Chris Statlander, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. No, thank you, Joe. No, thank you. Do not like.
Give me the floor.
Fine. Take it.
So the first time I ever saw Sky Blue in AAW, what did I come on this show and say? Do you remember?
I talked about her tremendous potential.
I said she will be on TV sooner than later. I said there's no doubt that she was probably 18, 19 years old, whatever it was. Said, Sky Blue, this is a national television wrestler. I have no doubt in my mind. But she was green as hell. She wasn't any good. But it was very obvious that there was a very high ceiling there. So she gets signed by AEW during the great roster competition of, where everyone was getting signed too soon. And she comes to AEW, and she did not look good at all at the start. And this was someone who I was like, look, you can't really have her on TV unless she's doing jobs. She's got to be hidden on Dark or on YouTube or whatever. And this is a long-term development prospect. So now she's been getting this big push. She's wrestled more matches on TV for this company than anyone other than Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy's literal gimmick was that he was wrestling
this guy was working
much.
too much, wrestling too much, and destroying his body by just not taking a night off. Yeah.
So that's the only person on the roster who has wrestled more than her on TV this year, is someone whose gimmick was he wrestles too much on TV. So they're pushing her, and the bottom line here is she's not improving. The match she had last night against Red Velvet was one of the worst TV matches of the year. I mean, It was horrendous. It was irredeemably awful.
They were either fucking spots up or slowly going through spot. Awful.
You can't have a national television major league promotion and present the public matches that bad. You cannot. Okay? It was that bad. It was putrid. And it's not like Sky Blue's other matches or anything great. She cannot promo. She has very little charisma. She looks like she doesn't want to be there. Even before this gimmick where she got the mist. I don't want to hear that, because before that, she looked like she just comes across like she'd rather be doing anything than pro wrestling. She doesn't have any personality. So what is the fascination with this person? And why is she being pushed so hard? She isn't good at anything. She's not good when the bell rings. She can't promo. They barely let her speak because they know she can't promo. And I still think, to some degree, there's a ceiling there, a high ceiling. And she's someone who I immediately identified the first time I saw her as someone with some potential. She does not belong on TV right now. She's not ready for the spot. She's not ready for the push. And it's obvious every week. I look at the quarter hours like everyone. It doesn't seem like she's doing anything there. And I mentioned earlier today on the paywall, maybe they have some data, some deeper data, some minute by minutes, some down card demos. Maybe she draws a certain, demographic that we're not privy to during her segments. I don't know what the fuck it is. Okay. Why they insist on pushing this person who stinks it up every time she's on the screen. But it cannot be her matches. It cannot be how she comes across on television. And because her performances are bad. She isn't good. Okay? And if you think she's good, then bad wrestlers on TV just don't exist to you. Because there are very few wrestlers on TV worse than her at everything. So if you think she's good, you just think everyone's good, which is fine. You probably enjoy wrestling a lot more than I do right now if you think Sky Blue is good. But, who's worse than her in this company? I mean, who could you even argue is worse than her? Taya Valkyrie, maybe? Where do you turn? I can't even think of anyone
in this company. There's very few. I think some people will say Saraya, and that's not true. She's not this bad. She's bad, but she's not
close.
this bad.
It's close.
It's close. Taya, I think I would rather, if given the option to watch 100 Sky Blue matches or 100 Taya Valkyrie matches, I think I would choose the Sky Blue matches, but I do agree that Sky Blue is worse than Taya Valkyrie, but it's very close.
You want to count Satnam Singh? You want to count the Freak Show Giant? I don't know if that's
sure.
fair.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I mean, for what he's asked to do, I think he's better than she is, but he does not ask to do much except catch people and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. In terms of regular performers, I mean, you're talking about a high standard here.
So here's my point. It's like, all right, well, she's young and she might appeal to certain. Look, you got a lot of young wrestlers on this roster that could have this spot, though. Like, why wouldn't Willow Nightingale get this spot? She's 1,000,000% better than Sky Blue.
10 million times better.
Everything. I mean, the wrestling's not even close. She can talk. She has some personality. You know, it's like, you know, they don't do as much with her. She's on TV, but they don't do as much with her. They have Julia Hart, who started off very inexperienced, around the same age as Sky Blue, but has made improvements, visible improvements that we can see. She does better in the gimmick that she's been handed. She was okay as the dopey little cheerleader to get her started. She's doing excellent in this gimmick. She gets great reactions from the crowd. You know, they pop for her when she comes out. They're into her matches. And she has improved enough to where I think Julia Hart is a bang average wrestler in comparison to the rest of this women's roster. She doesn't have these disasters that Sky Blue has every other time she's in the ring. I mean, last night it just completely fell apart, and that was a disgrace, and that doesn't belong on TV. Okay? That's the kind of match that's so bad that you just can't put those people on TV anymore because you can't trust them. Right? They're not going to do that, but that's how I would view it. That's how it used to be viewed. That's how certain, you know, it was that bad. Julia Hart is never that bad.
No. That match last night was okay. They come to the back and it's like, all right, you guys need to build yourselves up from square one. Like, you know, you got to be off TV.
Something needs to be done because
right. You have to be off TV for a while and work this thing out and go back to class and you know, go back to the trainings. You know, whatever you got to do, go back, relearn, refocus, do whatever. Because that was. It's weird because I feel like Sky Blue is getting worse too, which is I don't know how that's possible, but
she's not getting better.
She's definitely not getting better. I'll tell you that. And anybody who tries to pretend that match was anything less than a disaster, we're just not watching the same thing. I don't know. I mean, she missed. Velvet missed a kick by 10 feet. Sky Blue sold for a minute. And then realized, or a second, and then realized, that kick missed. So then she ran the ropes. Like you got to do one or the other. You got to no sell it or sell it. You can't sell it for a second and then go, yeah, it really didn't hit me that hard. I guess I'll run the ropes. And you can't do that. And then there was a sequence where I think they did
a series of awkward spots.
What was though? There was like 5 or 6 that I didn't know if they were counters or botches. I still don't know.
Because she constantly tries to do things that she cannot do.
Yeah,
that's the other problem. She constantly tries to do things above her skill level, and it always either looks awkward or funky. And then every now and then she'll hit a really good-looking code red, and people think that she's good. And it's like, no, she's not. She's terrible.
No, she didn't hit a good one yesterday. I'll tell you that.
And then the finish was awful because last night, and then she pinned her anyway, which a veteran wrestler knows like that can't be the finish. Now we've got to do something else or do it over something. But they don't have the experience, either one of them, to do that on the fly on live TV because she isn't good. She's not ready. She is not ready. And this is someone who I identified the first time I saw her as someone with national TV potential. It's just too soon. So put someone else in the spot. And it's been long enough now. Like Julia Hart has taken her spot by the throat, and she's doing a great job. A great job. You know, I've been saying that Julia Hart should be the leader of the House of Black instead of Tom End because I think she's gotten over better. She has more potential to get over. I feel like she should be the leader of that group and they should be her henchmen. That's how good that she's doing and how well that she projects. Sky Blue doesn't project anything. She just stands there. She's just a zilch. I am mystified by this. Mystified by it. And whatever deep down card ratings data they might have on her, it isn't reflected in her overall.
It's also not worth it. It's also not worth it to have a women's division that nobody made noise and it's a laughing stock. I mean, I don't know that it's worth it for incremental. If we're assuming, let's assume that there's incremental, slight minute by minute data that shows that Sky Blue is a rating. Great. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Why? I think I could probably gain ratings points by having much more talented women wrestle as opposed to Sky Blue wrestling as much as she is. It's just you cannot defend her having the second most matches in this entire company. You just can't.
If you genuinely think she's good, then you just don't think anyone's bad. That's really what it comes down to. I've been right about a lot of people over the 12, 13 years we've been doing this. I've been right about a lot of people from the ground floor in terms of who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. She's not going to be a star. She does not have it in her, and she's not good enough. I'm saying it now. And if she proves me wrong, great. Because you know what I can do, Rich? I could just ignore all this and tell you the first time I saw her that I said she was going to be a star. See, I'm a winner either way. See what I do there, Rich?
You play both ends.
So,
you play both sides.
Yes, that's right. No, but seriously, I at this point, I don't see it. She's 24 now. She's been wrestling for like 6 years. How long has she been wrestling? This is not some rookie.
No, it's been.
So,
I mean, she's still pretty young, but I mean, she's
4
had
or 5 years at least.
I always say this because people always bring this up. Oh, they've only been wrestling for. Look, you know when people are. They might not be finished products. They might not be all the way there. You can tell when someone's going to be there.
She had her first match in 2017.
That's a long time.
What are we
ago.
doing here?
Yeah, like Kyle Fletcher. The first time you laid eyes on Kyle Fletcher, you're like, I don't quite know what this is all looking like, but you knew the guy had something, right?
Yeah.
The first time we laid eyes on Will Ospreay, and he's as skinny as he weighs 100 pounds, soaking wet.
Doesn't know how to sell.
He doesn't know. He's weird. But you knew, fuck, man, this
guy's gonna be something,
right?
Yeah.
You know these things, you know what I mean? Like we were discussing in our Discord earlier today. We were talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like the story around Stone Cold Steve Austin in like whatever it was, 89 or whatever, was like a match in. Everybody was like, this guy's gonna be the biggest star in wrestling. This guy's fucking great. And like he wasn't there yet, and they knew that it was gonna take a while. But from like almost day one in Texas, people were saying, this guy's got it. He's 5 matches in and he's already got it. Like whatever you know this. You know these things. These people, rarely in wrestling is someone not that good for 5 or 6 years and then gets really good. Like you kind of know. And if you think that there's anything there, and okay, we're just watching different things. Then I don't know what to say anymore.
Man, I'm not saying cut her, but this is not a good. She's not ready for this spot. And, and I'm not saying don't try to appeal to different demographics. But you have other people on the roster that you can try these things with. I mean, it just is not working out. Last night should have been a wake-up call. I mean, last night, if I'm running this company, I'm like, man, I can't trust this person. Because it's not like I have Medusa Michelli and Jackie Sato on this roster to lead her through. Because this isn't a great roster to begin with.
A lot of blind leading the blind on this roster, unfortunately.
And Red Velvet, she wasn't exactly, fucking Mildred Burke either in there last night. So it's like these things are going to happen because the roster isn't that strong, and I can't trust her. But I don't know, man. I don't. I think she's terrible. I think she's pretty putrid right now as a performer. And on top of that, it'd be one thing if she was popping quarter hours or if she was showing like an outstanding personality or was like fire on the fucking stick but she's none of those things. I don't see her bringing anything to the table. That's like Britt Baker. Everyone banged on Britt Baker's matches and Britt Baker would have some fucking clunkers. Okay. But Britt Baker was one of the best promos in the company and got over and was popping quarter hours.
Had presence too. Great presence.
And had presence and was cutting great promos and all of those things. And you're like, that justifies the push. I can live with one match a month that falls apart because she is a star. And she's a star because of her presence and her promos and the way she carries herself. And we're not getting anything from Sky Blue. Nothing. It's a void. It's an empty shell. I mean, she had one job a couple weeks ago. Spit the mist in Julia Hart's face. She missed.
She missed the face.
She spit it on her chest. And poor Julia Hart has to sell this like it's in her face. So, I don't know. This, this three-way, who the fuck knows?
Who the fuck knows and who the fuck
problem,
cares?
Too, is Statlander is coming in injured because she had to watch that TV from that wretched angle, and her neck is all fucked
neck's
up.
Gonna be. Right.
We're doing that now, I guess, too.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. And then the AEW World Tag Team Title 4-way. Big Bill and Ricky Starks defending the titles against FTR The Kings of the Black Throne. Is that their official name? The Kings of the Black Throne? That's what Wikipedia has. Brody King and Malachi Black, and then LFI, Dralistico, and Roosh.
Yeah, who could possibly care?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just throwing a bunch of teams in a title match. It's going to be on the show, and you just hope for mindless action, right? Isn't that what you're hoping for here? Just
yeah.
Let's have some mindless action. One of those matches where you're like, that had a lot of action and it was a lot of fun, but I'll never remember a single spot from it ever again.
No, you want like Malachi Black to do like a tope, and then Dralistico does a tope, and then Big Bill looks around and then he does a tope. Like just dumb shit like that. Like just stuff
dumb
like
shit.
that. Yeah.
Like an NXT ladder match.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of
Shit
people doing
happens.
stuff, and then any Wes Lee match in NXT, basically.
Right.
You don't retain any of it, but you just hope it's a good time for the fucking 12 minutes that they're out there. And could you possibly care who comes away with the titles here? I mean, I guess Kings of the Black Throne, because they've been being spooky and the lights are going out and popping up behind people.
Yeah.
So maybe just put it on them. I don't know. Who cares? Like, does it fucking matter?
Does not.
I wouldn't mind if like Ricky Starks steals a pin and then he clutches the title and runs up the ramp hugging the title, like that kind of. I wouldn't mind that finish. I wouldn't mind King and Black kicking everybody's heads off and having them win. I wouldn't mind Roosh just shooting on everybody and fucking winning the titles, whether he's supposed to or not. And I wouldn't mind FTR winning them back either, because fuck it, who cares? Like, I don't care.
Nah.
Any outcome here is fine by me. And I always respected that Dax Harwood, and I enjoyed that tweet that he put out last week where he said, there's a little too much comedy in his company.
Yeah,
right now.
you've been a long-standing Dax respecter,
big Dax respecter and supporter.
You love his tweets. You make sure you're on Dax to watch. Big fan of the old podcast he used to do. You hate that it's gone,
Absolutely.
but maybe one day it'll come back.
Love this co-host. I love that Dax is a man who's not afraid to speak his mind. I've said that for years, Rich.
Right. You've always said that about
always
Dax.
Said that.
Yeah.
I've said, now you wait a minute. He's not speaking out of school. He's got good things to say. That's always been my stance.
That man has a family, Rich. You respect that man's daughter,
right.
All right?
You know how much that man loves his daughter. You leave him alone. Right. How many times have I said that on this show?
Right.
So I was, and once again, me and Dax, we're on the same wavelength there.
You guys are doing you're doing the FTR, the elbow thing. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, we're doing the elbow thing.
As you guys go.
I'm doing I see you, Dax.
Top guys out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm doing the I see you, Dax, with the two fingers at my eyes and then the two fingers at his eyes. I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get it, man. Me and you, same wavelength all the time. So once again,
you and Scott Dawson, baby. Yeah, you and Scott Dawson going.
Is
back.
He Dawson? He's Dawson.
Yes, he was Dawson. Yeah.
All right. What was the other guy?
Creek. I don't know. I forget what his other name was.
Creek and Dawson.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mechanics with their mechanic shirts with the sleeves ripped off. So with the names on the fucking red script with the white label. The fucking mechanics. Remember? And then so Creek and Dawson.
What the fuck was his name?
It wasn't Creek. Oh, you're making a Dawson's Creek joke.
I was making it. Yeah, Dash Wilder. He was Dash Wilder.
Dash Wilder. Yeah. So
Van Wilder.
Anyway,
that's
Full Gear.
Yep. So. Oh, sorry. And then of course the pre-show ROH tag title match or whatever. But
I like that idea. Whoever said that, I'm gonna steal it and pretend it was my idea. Where he ultimately picks Joe, and then Joe just fucking
the bell
punches
rings
him out and he loses.
Joe's sitting there on the side. No, you could do the old Ric Flair thing. Like go back and watch the one time I think it was 95 when Ric Flair was like, Stinger, I want to be your partner. And Sting's like, I don't know. It's probably not going to go well. It never goes well. And Flair was just, constantly just like, Stinger, you can believe in me, Stinger. You can do it. And then he's like, all right, fine. So then they have a match and Sting's just getting beaten down. I forget what the show was. I can find it over the course of the show. And he's getting beaten down. And Ric Flair's like, Stinger, I'm here for you, buddy. Anytime you tag me, please. Like, please. And Sting just getting beaten down for like 10 minutes. Finally, Sting tags him. Ric Flair takes 2 steps, turns around, decks Sting. It's just like, yes. I kind of want that where Joe's on the side, bouncing up and down, sticking his arm out. I got you, MJF. And then he tags him in, he just decks him. Or like you said, the bell rings, he just immediately picks him up and package pile drives him and sends him back.
Yeah.
Muscle busters him and just kicks him to the curb and throws him into the guns. Here, pin him. There. Now I want my title shot. I like that.
Yeah. And that fits everything that they're trying to do. And it gets the titles off of the team where one guy's not even around. It's just, it makes too much sense.
Yeah, no, that's good. But
Instant Reaction Live, $10 tier this Saturday. Make sure you get on that. So, and hear the review of the show. I am still betting on the show being great.
Oh, I still think it'll be great. I don't know if business wise it's going to move what the other pay-per-views did, but yeah, we'll see. They haven't. If you're a pay-per-view purchaser, you haven't not gotten your money back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you've gotten your value on every single AEW pay-per-view for the most part. There's been one or two that haven't been, but most are like in the conversation for some of the best wrestling pay-per-views you'll ever see. So until that starts happening, I don't know that there's going to be a lack of confidence. I just don't know if the business I'm curious if those people that have stopped watching and stopped going to live shows, if they're going to say, you know what? I'll still watch these pay-per-views. They still deliver. So maybe I'll watch these. That would be the key there. If those people still watch, but we'll see. We'll talk about it on Saturday, immediately after Full Gear. Instant Reaction Live, flagship patreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Then, of course, if you are going to order the show on Fight, make sure you use our link, voicesofwrestling.com/fight. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time, so let's get after it here. A lot of Japan to talk about. Let's start in New Japan Pro Wrestling with the World Tag League lineup. We have the World Tag League starting coming. When does it start? I don't have the date of when it starts. It's really quick. I think it's in the next couple of. Get the exact date here, as I'm sure by the time I say it, everybody is going to tell us in the Notos chat room. It is November 20th. November 20th it kicks off. So next couple days here.
Is the World Tag League lineup actually good? Is it good? What do you think? I think it's a good lineup. I think
it's kind of a good lineup. Yeah, I that was going to be my hot take is like, I think I'm kind of into the World Tag League this year. And I'm sure there will come a show that I'm going to watch and turn on and go, oh my God. Because we have the full schedule up at voicesofwrestling.com. I have it linked in the show notes as well and link it again, but voicesofwrestling.com, you have it all there. There are some nights that they're a little rough, but I think if you pick and choose and you're a little smart about it, don't watch every single match. I think that's wild. You probably shouldn't do that.
No, you'll burn yourself out.
Don't burn yourself out. But you can very easily look at this lineup and go, okay, all right. And there's enough good matchups throughout this tournament that I think you can do this. I think it's actually a good, because a lot of times I just go, you know what, World Tag League, I don't need it. I'm good. I think I'm going to check out a lot of this World Tag League. There's a lot of good stuff here.
I think they did a great job with the key native teams that they needed to have in. The New Japan strong representation with the Lance Archer, Alex Zane team that we talked about a couple weeks ago, that they use a lot. They use that team a lot on Strong, but they haven't really been in Japan proper. And here they are. They even brought in some CMLL guys. You got Soberano Jr. and Atlantis Jr. How interesting of a team is that? And how interesting is that they consider Soberano Jr. a heavyweight, which I guess because he's tall, right? And Atlantis Jr. now, he's put on weight because he's trying to have that body his dad had. So, that they're smaller guys, but it's interesting that they're considering Soberano Jr. a heavyweight. So that's a lot of fun. Yota Tsuji and the mystery partner Z, which we now know as Zandokan Jr. We all figured it was, but poor Chris Charlton, great guy, but when he put up the what do you call it, the chart or the table, he accidentally put Zandokan Jr.'s name in it, giving away that he's going to be the guy. I don't know if they've officially said it.
They have not, Jr. yet. As of right now, they have not officially said it, but yeah.
So, but we all kind of figured the way Tsuji laid the
it was Tsuji, it's Z. He said, "Oh, it's not an X, it's a Z," and everybody was like, "Oh, that makes sense that it's him." And then that chart came out, and it was like,
"Who else would it have been?"
Right?
Who else would it have been? But you know what's interesting
Matt
about
Cardona, Long Island Ice Z, Matt Cardona. That could have been him, but
after the DDT show, no thanks. But what's interesting about using Zandokan Jr. is he's a guy who just recently broke out in CMLL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was a guy who very rarely worked Arena Mexico. He's having his breakout year. I mentioned him here a couple months ago as a guy that has really broken out and is starting to get pushed a little bit on the Arena Mexico shows. And it goes to show that people like Gato and Rocky Romero have noticed and taken notice because of all the guys in CMLL, like Soberano Jr. and Atlantis Jr., they're obvious, right? It's like, but to pick this guy out, that says it's very similar to me when Rev Pro last month or the month before, I think it might have been whenever it was, did their version of Fantastica Mania and they brought in the CMLL guys. It was interesting that the guy that got pushed heavy on those shows and ended up getting the title match with Michael Oku was Hechicero, right? Because Quilden is one of us, Rich. Like, he likes the shit we like. Hechicero is not a heavily pushed guy in CMLL, but like American and British and other CMLL fans that aren't based in Mexico love that guy. Right, because he wrestles a style that we like, and we think, and
he's
all the
beatable
guys
too. He's beatable in a tournament,
and he's beatable. That's right. And CMLL is not going to give you grief or anything like that if he But the point here is, Andy Quilden's the kind of guy who would recognize, I get to book Hechicero, I'm giving him the title shot ahead of all these other guys who might be bigger names in Mexico than he is. Right. That's what this Zandokan Jr. booking is like to me. It's I'm sure Rocky had a lot to do with it, and he saw this guy break out and saw all the personality that he has and that he'd be a good fit. Plus, he's a bigger guy too. He's bigger for a luchador as well, and he's not going to look small or out of place. Plus, he has the pirate gimmick, and he's very expressive and has a good personality. So it's a very interesting booking and one that I wasn't expecting from that standpoint. You got Gates of Agony from AEW. You bring Kaito Kiyomiya and Rohei Oiwa back from Noah after the story they told in the G1 with those two guys, and Oiwa going to Noah for his excursion. You even bring in a couple of the New Zealand guys with Fale and Jack Bonza. I don't know who needs that necessarily.
Not me, but somebody, I guess.
It continues to speak, though, to it's a very diverse tournament where they pulled from a lot of their allegiances and a lot of their partnerships with other promotions around the world, and it's an interesting field.
Right, we didn't get some lazy Yujiro Takahashi team or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you have Evil and Yujiro Takahashi, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like the tournament is just lumping guys in because this is who you have. Like, it's Shota Umino and Ren Narita. That's a cool team. Obviously, those are two up and coming guys and have a real chance, I think, to make some noise.
They could win
in that A block. I think they absolutely can win that A block.
Like, I don't want to think about it too hard.
Yeah,
and figure it out. We could probably figure it out. Who's going to win this? I don't want to do. I never like doing that for the tournaments. I like to watch them play out, but they're absolutely in the mix. They could win.
Yeah, they're in play, so I like them. United Empire, Great Okan and Hanare, Tomoru Ishii and Toru Yano, Shane Hasten, Mikey Nichols, Bullet Club War Dogs of Coughlin and Gabe Kidd, Evil and Yujiro Takahashi. I mean, you can't get rid of
those. Are matches you just don't listen.
Right,
you don't watch those matches.
Right, you just don't watch those ones. It's perfectly okay to just skip those. Kaito Kiyomiya and Oiwa, like you said, be a fun team. And they get to Agony. Khan and Toa Leona is a real fun.
And I'll be locked in to their matches at least at first, because I want to see. And this is a real tour. This isn't going to New Japan to work a couple of Korakuens like those old ROH shows or whatever. This is a long tour, and they're going to gain so much from working this long tour against that diverse group of teams that you just named in their block. To get in there with those different teams and work a different style in front of different crowds, they're going to gain so much. Think about Dan Maloney at the beginning of Best of the Super Juniors, and think about Dan Maloney now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you're going to see a similar, and I just pulled someone recent. We've seen it time and time again in New Japan. And this is great for the Gates of Agony. This is a great team for Tony Khan to send over there and do this tour.
And I think one of the things that helps this year as well is, I'm looking back at past World Tag Leagues, and like, you used to have that Evil and Yujiro Takahashi team, and they were one of, just a handful of teams in this tournament. So you knew you were getting it. Now it's like they're one of, in that entire block, it's like there are 4 or 5 other teams that you can watch every single night and be entertained by. You don't have to worry about watching these guys. It's not like they're dragging down the whole thing. They're one match in a pretty big tournament. So I think that certainly helps. In the B block, I think B block rocks. I mean, you got Bishiman, obviously Yoshihashi and Goto. That'll be great. Hikuleo and El Phantasmo. The Rogue Army, Bad Luck Fale and Jack Bonza, no thank you. Just 5 guys, Taichi and Yu Uemura. That even adds a different dynamic to Taichi with Yu Uemura in there. Yota Tsuji and Z, but yeah, we obviously know who Z is. And then Soberano Jr. and Atlantis Jr. I'm watching every one of those matches. Are you kidding me?
At least until I get a feel for what their matches are going to be like.
Right. But then
once you see, all right, here's the spots they're going to do. At some point you can figure sometimes these teams get a little repetitive, and then you can, but yeah, I'm going to be locked into them early, no doubt about it.
Nagata and Minoru Suzuki, and then Lance Archer and Alex Zane. So that B block, I mean, with the exception of Hikuleo and Phantasma, which I'm not all the way in on.
I have no use for that team.
And Fale and Bonza, I'm pretty much in on every other team there.
Yeah. What you do with Fale and Bonza, you watch their first match, and then you're like, all right, I got a taste.
I get it. I understand. And now I'm out.
That's it. But that Taichi Yuya Uemura team is very interesting.
Yes, that will be good.
Uemura is a guy that obviously has, come back and has just popped off the screen. And, Nagata and Suzuki was a nice little surprise, I think. I wasn't expecting either one of those guys to be in it, let alone team with each other. And I don't know, Rich. You tell me if this qualifies as a hot take. I'd rather have Archer and Zane. I know a lot of people are making a big fuss over West Coast Wrecking Crew not being in this. I'm taking Archer and Zane every time. I look, the West Coast Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, come on.
I find them dry. I don't know. I just watched that Lone Star Shootout where they had that big match against Hikuleo and El Phantasmo. And like usual, they do nothing for it. They're just dry. They were Tom Lawlor's henchmen, part of his Filthy Tom crew. And to me, they're not, I don't see the upside in the West Coast Wrecking Crew that a lot of other people see, but that's kind of the big snub to a lot of people.
Fine, but man, I cannot imagine getting upset. No, I mean, no.
Well, no one's upset. I'm just saying they're considered the snub.
Oh, well.
Now, would I rather see them than Fale and Bonza?
Yeah,
of course.
Right.
Because I don't want Fale, and no offense, Bonza is what he is. I don't think he's anything special. I don't have any use. But Fale is the one you really don't want to have to deal with.
No.
Because he's just lazy, and he stinks. But I think Archer and Zane, from what I've seen, I've enjoyed their stuff more than I've enjoyed West Coast Wrecking Crew. And, maybe that's just me. But they seem to be the New Japan Strong representatives here. I was stunned at how interesting the lineup was. That's all. Am I going to be locked into every show? Of course not. But are you doing the one review with Joel?
I have to. Yeah, I've been bullied into it. You're because I made an offhand remark about how I wanted to do it, and now Joel has been bothering me every hour on the hour and telling me what show. So I got to pick a show, and yeah, we will do it. I will be on the Super J-Cast at some point in the next couple weeks, reviewing a World Tag League show. So.
All right, so let me go over this Lone Star Shootout quickly because you didn't watch it. So I will go through the card, and if you think you have some interesting questions you want to pepper at me as I do this, you can go right ahead. I actually did watch the pre-show, and I have real legitimate thoughts on the pre-show.
All right.
So let me pull this up because the pre-show I thought was interesting in that Tom Lawlor and Fred Rosser wrestled on the pre-show, and these were main eventers in New Japan Strong like all of last year, and now they've I guess I don't want to use the word relegated, but they've been relegated to the fucking pre-show. Fred Rosser, remember that was like the top feud in the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whatever you want to call it, the offshoot company, the fucking whatever, and now it's a pre-show match, which is interesting. And the other match, and Rosser wins. It wasn't much of a match, by the way. The other match was Matt Vandegrift versus Barrett Brown. And what I want to say about this is Barrett Brown, I've been watching him since he's a teenager and, out here in Texas. And he was something of a prodigy in Texas, like a legitimate prodigy. He's just great almost immediately. And he's been wrestling a long time, and he's been in the New Japan system now. Gotta be pre-pandemic at least. And he doesn't work he worked a lot of the New Japan Strong shows during the pandemic. Remember when Rick Abani was doing the commentary in the empty building with Alex Kozlov, like that era of New Japan Strong? Barrett Brown was a regular, so he was getting regular work during that time, but he's at all of these shows, but doesn't work all of these shows. And he did work this one, and he lost a little 4-minute match to this Vandegraff guy. And it's like, if I'm Barrett Brown, it's like, I'm not asking out because where else is he going to go? Right? He's in the New Japan system. That's a great spot for him. But if I'm New Japan, isn't it time to shit or get off the pot with this guy? You either like him or you don't.
Right.
He's working, he's working this pre-show match to curtain jerk the show. He's losing in 4 minutes to a guy that's been in New Japan for 10 minutes with this Vandegraff, who is another guy who they have who's brand new to their system. In fact, he's only wrestled a handful of matches in the New Japan system and all this year. So it's like, look, if you don't see it in Barrett Brown,
it's fine.
Isn't it time to move on? I mean, how many times are you going to bring this guy back to set up the ring? Like when I've gone to New Japan shows in the United States, like he's often the guy, like one time he was the guy who was handing out the media badges, like at the media check-in. He does the grunt work. He's a guy that does the grunt work. He, helps set up and then maybe he gets on the show. And I think he's a guy that could be useful. I think, as a junior, because he's really good and they just do nothing. And it's like, how long are you going to string the guy along? Maybe has he turned down other opportunities? Or I don't know. I don't have any inside information, but I'm just watching this and I'm watching him lose and I'm thinking, I don't know. He's a guy that definitely had potential for a number of years. And I don't get what New Japan's doing. It's either do something with the guy, even if he's just a mid-carder on Strong, like he was for a while, or let's all move on from this. But anyway, the show proper, it was Atlantis, Mascara Dorada, and Tiger Mask over the previously mentioned Hechicero, Rocky Romero, and Ultimo Guerrero. A little disappointing. I thought it was a little sloppy. There was they weren't. I was looking forward to this, but Dorada especially. A lot of these guys just seem to be off on this night. It just wasn't a great night for a lot of the guys in there. So it was a disappointing match. Toru Yano versus Joey Janela over delivered, I thought, because I was expecting nothing but bad comedy. They did it. It was a gimmick. I think they did no DQ or whatever they called it, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. So from that standpoint, I was expecting to groan my way through it, but it was okay. Next up was a big Bullet Club schmoz with Coughlin, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd with Chase Owens. So the 3 War Dog guys and then Chase Owens against Tamatanga Tangaloa, Kevin Knight, and Kushida. Just a nothing match. I have a confession to make. I'm not into. I think I'm out on the War Dogs. I watched a lot of the Super Junior Tag League. They're dry, man. I mean, you can only say "fuck you" to the crowd so many times, and to where it loses its edge.
It did, yeah. We seem to have gotten to the point where it's like, all right, what else?
And they're all talented guys.
Yeah. What else do you have though? Do you have anything else that we could try here? Because
I watched Gabe Kidd wrestle Michael Oku. He had a title shot in Rev Pro last month, and I just watched that match, and it was all the same shtick that he did there too, like spitting on what's her name, Amira?
Amira,
spitting on Amira and just doing it, and it's like, I know they're getting the gimmick over and they're working the gimmick, but I don't have a lot of interest in I think Maloney is the one that I like the best in this current form. Every one of them are really good, but I don't know. This wasn't a very interesting match at all. It's like a 2-star match. Phantasmo and Hikuleo successfully defended over West Coast Wrecking Crew. So I thought a lot of people thought West Coast Wrecking Crew might win this is the strong tag team titles now, but they didn't. But again, it was a very disappointing match. I'd go about 2 stars, 2.25 if I had to put stars on it. Just not interesting. 2 teams that just aren't interesting. Mystico versus TJP, another disappointing match. TJP had a really interesting lightning match in CMLL a couple months ago against Virus, and he's been doing cool stuff in CMLL, and they gave him this Mystico match, and I was really looking forward to this one, and it just didn't really hit. Probably about a 3-star match. Obviously, Mystico wins, but it was disappointing. Eddie Kingston defeats Satoshi Kojima. Just what you thought it would be. I thought it was good. I'd go about 3.5, and there's they did that spot where they both go off the ropes and then lariat each other, but because Kojima is the strongest arm, like Kingston sold it like he was dead.
Okay,
and Kojima
I like
didn't
that.
sell it at all.
That's pretty good.
Kingston was probably having the time of his life, but the spinning back fist, the deal, and he wins and he defeats Kojima. Kojima's having a really fun year. When we do, when the mystery panel does the FSM 50, I hope that the voters consider Kojima for a spot there, but Moxley and Wheeler Yuta versus David Finlay and Kenta is okay. Especially for a match that involves David Finlay and modern Kenta. I think that it was probably a little better than you think it was. And Moxley and Wheeler won that one. And then the business end of the card, Zack Sabre Jr. and Mike Bailey. I thought it was the best match on the show. I love Zack Sabre Jr.'s TV title run. I like, he took on Oleg Boltin on the Super Junior Tag League Tour. I mean, it's all comers. Young Lions, people who aren't even in the company. He had that cool little match against Kojima on the tour before that. So, man, I really loved his stuff. This was an easy notebook match for me. I know he's had the title almost a year now. I know it hasn't been the kind of title people thought it would be, centered around the young guys, but man, has it worked out. And recently, I've been just super into, and I haven't even bothered with the defenses that he's done on the ROH show, because I don't watch the Honor Club show, but he's wrestled a bunch of cool people there too in matches that I just haven't seen. But the Oiwa match, the Kojima match, Oleg Boltin, now this Mike Bailey match, which was a great match, the Jeff Cobb match at the Minion, Action Andretti on Rampage, remember about 3 months ago, whatever it was. So, and he did the draw with Jeff Cobb, and then they did the rematch, because remember, it's the 15-minute time limit. So he beat Bailey right before the time limit, snapped his fingers, and Bailey was selling the broken finger, like bending it. It was an interesting match. That was the best match on the show. Mayu Iwatani defeats Stephanie Vakir for the IWGP. Well, she defended the IWGP women's title. It was okay. It was fine. I mean, Vakir looked good. I have actually a quote about Vakir from someone in the business. You want that?
Sure. Yeah. Is it pertain to? We had the conversation last week about.
Yeah, they heard us talking about her
because everybody wants her to be like the AEW World Women's. And it's like, hold on a minute.
They want to sign. Yeah, look, I think she's pretty good too. I just think that anyway. This is someone in the business who heard us have the conversation and then saw this match. Okay. It says, I think Stephanie Vakir has a lot of the needed tools, did a great job on using her facial expressions, movements, everything to make sure there was never a moment where she garnered a moment of sympathy. That's not always teachable. I think what the person meant to say was she was constantly trying to garner sympathy is what they were trying to say. They mistyped. That's not always teachable. Smaller the movement, harder it is to teach. I wouldn't sign her, but I'd bring her in for a few rampages from the perspective of if he was, or if he is either way, you get the idea. So I think that's a pretty good summation of what she is, actually. I think I agree with a lot of that.
It's well measured and thought out. Yeah.
And fair and honest. And I think she does do a lot of the little things well. And I do think she's someone that I would continue to look at for sure. But I remembered that as I was reviewing the show, because I heard from somebody that night who is in the business, who was taking a look at some of the people on the show. So, and then it was Shingo versus Trent Beretta for the never open weight title. And let me tell you, Rich Cage, this is a completely different kind of Shingo match than you will have seen all year. I mean, there's a bloodbath. A fucking bloodbath.
Okay.
Trent bleeding all. Yeah, Trent was fucking. All
right.
The proverbial crimson mask and the fucking tables, and this was not a Shingo style go Shingo, pumping bomber fest. Fucking, this was different, and I really liked it. I didn't quite like it as much as Zack Sabre Jr. versus Mike Bailey, but it was interesting because I would have loved Shingo and Trent just to go out there and have a work rate special. I think that would have been great. But I appreciate that they went out there and did something different. And I appreciate that Trent, for a company he doesn't even work for, right, goes out there and is bleeding buckets. So very interesting match from that standpoint. Definitely notebook material. I'd go to Sabre Bailey and Shingo Trent as far as notebook goes. Iwatani, Fakir, Kingston, Kojima, and me. I don't know. I really like the Toru Yano Joey Janela match. I know on Cage Match it got destroyed. Like Cage Match hates it, but I thought it over delivered. And then the rest was kind of like just there. It ranged from just there to kind of bad. Honestly, some of those tag matches were actually not good. But yeah, so that was the Lone Star Shootout from Curtis Caldwell Center.
Yes,
which they run fairly often. I think they ran the same show last
Everyone
year.
does. That's the epicenter of wrestling, the Curtis Caldwell Center in Garland, Texas. AEW's running there all the time. New Japan's running there all the time. But yeah, I definitely got to check out that Trent Shingo. That sounds right up my alley. What is not up my alley, though, is the announced match for Shingo at Wrestle Kingdom. He's going to be facing Tama Tonga for the never open weight.
We saw it coming
title.
last week.
I know.
It's just,
I know.
you know, and look, I know they just had a really good match. I think I went 4 1/4 on the match.
You know
they
what?
just had.
I'm glad.
I don't need that again.
No,
I don't fucking need that again. You know, and I know Tama Tonga, he's been around, you know, when did he come into their system? 2009, I want to say, when he was doing the Jimmy Snuka sort of routine. Let's see when he started as a young. Yeah, 2010 is when he came into. So he's been there forever. And I know he's been loyal. He had a chance to walk and he didn't, and all that. And then if he's going to be there and he's a perfectly fine wrestler, I'm just so over this fucking guy. This is just, he's just a perfect example, like we talked about with David Finlay, of movement is good.
Yes.
Please go somewhere else. Please.
Another Wrestle Kingdom. I just envision, you know what I mean? He's going to come out. That song is going to play in this echoey Wrestle Kingdom. No one's going to make any noise. You know, he's going to be slinking down the ring. You know, that what makes we've been there and I've done that so many times. I want a different story. I'm done with that. I don't want it anymore. But anyway, Shingo and Tama Tonga. Also, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tanahashi became official as well, which we did predict last week too. So
yeah, we saw both of those coming, and it's just, you know, you just wish that it was Ospreay Moxley. You wish that Shingo had a better opponent. You know, even from a story standpoint, it's like, why do we have to do Tama Tonga again?
Right. Do we have to have Tama Tonga? Do we? Must we?
But then it's like, who do you do then? Because it's like,
yeah, anybody, please.
You know, he just, you know, it's you want to do Great Khan, you want to do
Trent gets his rematch. I don't know. I haven't seen the match yet, but
you know, I'm just looking at some of the names in the World Tag League because those would be people not booked because, you know, they're looking for, you win the tournament, you get in. You're not going to do Goto because Bishamon, you know, they're either winning this tournament.
They're probably involved in a bigger tag match. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. So it's like, where do you turn? Do you want to do, well, you can't do Yota Tsuji. They're in the same unit. Do you want, okay, you know what you could do? You could do one of the young guys because they can lose their first Wrestle Kingdom singles match. You want to do Uemura. You want to do Shota
Uemura,
Minu.
that's a great example right there. Just 5 guys trying to light him up a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Or, you know, if Shota or Ren Narita, if they don't win it, you could do, that's, you know what? That's the direction that they could have gone. One of the young guys who can easily do a job and, you know, earn some respect in the process. But, you know, we get Tama Tonga because they were going to give Tama Tonga a spot on the show. So, you know, it's like you look at World Tag League and only one of these teams can win. And then there's going to be a lot of guys just with nothing to do. And it, you know, it could be, you know, could you envision Evil not having a match? Could you envision, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it would have to be, they weren't going to leave Tama Tonga off the show is the bottom line.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because he's got too much respect, and, you know, Bishamon's going to defend the titles against. So that's why I wasn't going to be Goto. So you could throw Goto out, and then maybe Shota Umino and Ren Narita are winning, and they'll be the challengers. Because you think it'd be someone. Well, they are doing semifinals, though, aren't they, with the World Tag League?
They are. They're doing semifinals and finals.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the other block who beats Bishamon. So, I don't know. Disappointing is the bottom line.
Definitely.
But anyway, that's New Japan. And that tournament. I guess you'll let everyone know which show you're going to review.
Yes,
on
yeah,
Super
I have to send some shows back. I'm not sure if I want to. I haven't quite decided if it would be better to watch the most dog shit show and review that, or watch like a pretty good show. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be one or the other. It can't just be like, this one looks okay. It's got to be either like, okay, this looks like a great night, or oh my god, look at this dog shit night. Let's talk about this one. But I was prepared to do a dog shit night, but then the lineups ended up being pretty good. So now I think I just want to do a good night instead. Like, if it's going to be bad and brutal, I was just thinking, let's just have some fun, and I'll pick the worst possible night, and we'll do that. But, looks like some good stuff here. So I'll find a night. But, yeah, people will know I'll be on the Super J-Cast at some point in the next couple of weeks. So that will be there soon. But,
all right, so I want to get this in. I want to get this in real quick. We could just blow through this. But I want to talk about some of the stuff I saw from CMLL in October, the key stuff. So this Futuro and Neon, these are the next breakout guys. I mean, they're green as hell. But they do some incredible stuff, some stuff that still, it's amazing that guys can still come up with things that you've never seen. But it just, so they've been getting on a lot of Arena Mexico shows over the last couple of months, and they really had their breakout month in October. They had a tag team title match against Magnus and I always forget the other guy's name. Ruggiero. Magnus and Ruggiero were the tag team champs. And they had a 6-man on the one show, which led to getting a tag team title shot on the show on the 13th. And that match was fantastic. And they had the entire Arena Mexico behind them, Futuro and Neon, to win those titles. And they lost. They came up short in the end, which I thought was the right call. And the Rudos retained in what was a great match. And then the main event of that show was Místico versus Templario. Templario has been working with the Rudos. The week before, they had a 6-man. It was Místico, Mascara Dorada, and Teton against, I think it was Dragon Rojo Jr.? It was definitely Angel de Oro and Templario. And I think it was Dragon Rojo Jr., but I might be wrong about the third guy. But the point here is Templario, the Rudos won in 2 straight falls, and Templario won the second fall with a low blow foul that the referee didn't see on Místico. Okay? So that got all kinds of heat. And then Místico took the mic and he challenged Templario for the next week, for the following Friday. And this is what I'm talking about with CMLL. It's just simple, direct booking. One thing leads to another, right? Templario wins with the foul. And they have the big schmaz after the match, and Místico wants a singles match. They have the singles match the following week, and Místico gets his revenge. He beats Templario in what I think to this point is the Lucha match of the year. Everyone listening, including you,
okay,
you got to go watch this Místico Templario match from the 13th. Okay,
15th of 13th of October, 15th of October. What did you say?
13th of October.
13th of October. Místico Templario.
And while you're there, watch Futuro and Neon if you haven't seen them yet in the tag title match against Magnus and Ruggiero. That match was great too. A lot of people think that match was better than Místico Templario. I don't agree. I think they're both notebook matches, but I think the tag match is a low-level notebook match. I think Místico Templario is my Lucha match of the year, and it's going to threaten my top 10 overall. They were so intense from the opening bell. Sometimes you're watching, especially a CMLL or a Lucha show, right? And you're enjoying it. And then a certain match will hit the ring and you're like, oh, they're going a different gear. This is different.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
and this was one of those matches where it was like, this is a different gear. Místico is out to prove something here. Templario is out to prove these guys. This was the proverbial. They've got the fucking working shoes on. This was intense from the jump. And this was just an incredible match. I don't want to give too much away. I already gave away the winner. But in terms of intensity and the work, and I was super into it because I watched the week before and saw what set the match up and all that. It's a must-watch match for anybody listening. It was fucking incredible. And the guy to vote for, if you're into the CMLL this year and you're into the booking as much, Panico. That is the booker. His name is Panico. He's an old Lucha guy from the old EMLL days. And according to Cubs fan, that's who's booking the company.
That's our guy. Okay.
Panico. If you want to put him on your observer ballots if you have nowhere else to turn for Booker of the Year. And I'm working on trying to figure out who definitively is booking All Japan.
I need that. Yeah, I need to know who's booking All Japan, and then I'll have my.
Well, I want to talk to you later off air because I need you to help me with that and do something that I can't do.
Got it.
But you could. So, but I'm trying to find out who's booking All Japan. I think last word it was Suji Ishikawa, and I'm sure it's some kind of committee. But I want to know for sure. I don't want this to be like the Dragongate thing where everyone would just go, I guess it's Genki Horiguchi.
Genki Horiguchi.
When it never really was, and it's
Right.
like, just because he spoke English and dealt with the foreigners, and it's like, so, but Panico's the guy, according to Cubs fan. And that's the guy if you want to vote for a booker. And I think he's going to get my vote because everything in Arena Mexico this year has built upon itself. And look, these feuds don't always last months and months. Some of them do. Some of them are just little 2-week things like this, And to be fair, I haven't watched. I'm always 1 month behind. I haven't started November yet. So I could be wrong, and Mystico and Templario could still be at each other. I don't know. As far as I am, though, is through October. So it felt like that was the blow-off, and it was just a little 2-week thing. But they've had a lot of feuds like that maybe were, started 1 week and ended the next, or one match that led to. And I don't, Rich, I don't need these bookers always to just do these convoluted, complicated. If you make it simple for me, if I'm done watching one show and it makes me more interested in the next show, you've done your job. If Mystico and Templario is a better match because of the way you set it up the week before, you've done your job. To me, satisfying me as a booker. And you can't really argue with CMLL's business. They sell the fucking building out every Friday. They're selling out Puebla half the time now too. So, the matches are great. They've built new stars every time you turn around, whether it's Templario and Soberano Jr. earlier this year. And now both of those guys are working Rudo, doing something a little different. Zandokan Jr. later on, who we talked about. Now Futuro and Neon. So this guy's also working new names into the mix. It's not like they're just booking the same old names all year either, which is also why these cards aren't getting old and they're not burning people out because you constantly have new names in the mix. And that's been happening all year with this company. So any way you look at it, business, match quality, just straight up booking that makes sense. I think Panico's the guy, Rich. It's going to be hard to convince me to vote for anybody else.
Yeah, I need that All Japan guy, and then we'll hopefully I'll be able to make a decision. I'll tell you, it's nobody in America. I don't think anybody in America deserves it at any level whatsoever. So it's between CMLL, All Japan, probably my 1-2 for sure.
So one quick correction. It wasn't Dragon Rojo Jr. in the 6-man. It was, we're being told it was Niebla Roja, and that's correct.
Got it. Okay.
Because I don't want people to tweet at you all week, Rich. So I misremembered who
anyway.
that third
You know
guy
what?
was.
They can do it. I don't care. I'm not going to see it. So
anyway, that's who the third guy was on the Rudo team to set up that Mystico Templario match that I couldn't think of. Anyway, that's the quick CMLL catch up for the month of October. And if I'm doing
too, not to scoop you too much, but we are doing that on the website as well. Griffin is doing a weekly column catching up the major stuff. So we did that in October, the major stuff for CMLL. So you can go check that out at voicesofwrestling.com as well. If you want a little catch up of the recommended, reviews of all the shows, recommended matches, that sort of stuff. Trying to put a spotlight on CMLL. If it's going to keep being as good as it is, it deserves it.
Yeah, the 1027 show was a really good start to finish show too. Nothing that I thought was super high end, but just a bunch of stuff and that's the thing. These shows are 5 matches. You're in and you're out. They're not. And the way that, if you're watching them on Cubs deal, it's like, it's just, each match is its own file. So it's really easy to, and then, you can skip the entrances. That's always like 4 minutes. And then you skip the time in between the falls, so you save another 2-3 minutes in between the falls.
It does not take long. It does not take long.
It does not take long. But that 1027 show is another, Futuro and Neon were on that as well in a trios match against my boy El Coyote. I love this El Coyote. I love this El Coyote. He's a heel, and he wears the furry fucking coyote mask, and he does a spot where he bites the opponent's foot, like he bites the boot. And the babyface sells it. I love that shit. That's my kind of goofiness. That's my kind, not black and white, timeless Tony. I like El Coyote biting the Technico's feet in a match. And there was an Averno Virus Lightning match, I'm fucking in. That's all you got to tell me there. But that 1027 show was very good too. It also had the women's Grand Prix, which a lot of people were angry because Tessa Blanchard was brought in for that. Oh, we should mention they signed Flip Gordon. Did you see the Flip Gordon?
Yeah, they said, you know what? Fuck it. We'll take your idiots and your canceled wrestlers. We'll take them all. So Tessa and Flip in the house. So
I didn't watch the Tessa match, but so Flip did the college basketball thing where he had the hats on the table, WWE, AEW, and I think the third one.
I saw that because a lot of people were like, oh, no, he's not the guy at Full Gear. Everyone was like, I really don't think so. Yeah,
because it was the same day.
Right,
so,
right.
So the third one was an NWA hat, but I don't know if you noticed, but it was the rap group and not the wrestling group that the hat.
That's great. That's so good.
Right? It's just the only one he could find, I guess. And then, he did because college basketball recruits do that, where they have the three hats on the table and then they put on the one. Yeah. And then he fooled everyone. And like underneath the table, he had the CMLL hat. So not only is Flip Gordon coming in and signing a contract, Rich, he's working the main event tomorrow.
Whoa,
night
all right.
at Arena Mexico.
Right
They're not fucking
gates,
around with Flip. Flip's going right to the top of the card. So he's in the top mix. He's working the main event tomorrow night. Now, there's a lot of people who don't like Flip. I've never minded Flip Gordon. I think he's harmless.
He's just an idiot. He's a harmless idiot is all.
What do I care if he thinks the world is flat? Why would I care that Flip Gordon thinks the world is? I don't know why these things wind people up as much as it does. But I think he'll fit in. I mean, I think it's a good spot for him. It's obvious AEW was never going to bring him in because they would have by now if they were going to. And it's obvious WWE is not interested. And why does he want to muck around in fucking MLW or whatever the fuck? This is a good spot for him.
It's a great spot. Great spot.
They're going to push him right off the bat too. So good for Flip Gordon, I say. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get to our last few topics here, I did want to note, another plug here for the Patreon. I have a brand new series coming up next week. It is debuting a new audio documentary series similar to my Goldberg 173 and 1 and my Daniel Bryan Yes Movement series. It is called Brett versus Owen because, Joe, 30 years ago, that feud kicked off at Survivor Series 1993. So we are going to deep dive, go nuts, month by month. It's going to take several months. The first episode I'm already working on, very long, very detailed. Some incredible audio production as well from Rich Latta. He's provided some instrumentals, an introduction, a rap intro to the show as well. So a lot of fun, and that is going to debut next week. So I just wanted to get that plug out of the way to let people know. Those will all be on the $5 tier, but episode 1 covering Survivor Series 1993, as well as how we got to that point, will be out next week on the 30th anniversary of Survivor Series 1993, and then we'll go month by month. We'll obviously go with the month of December, where they make up, the month of January, where Owen turns on them. We'll do February, we'll do March, which has WrestleMania in there. We'll go all the way to SummerSlam 94, and then we'll even go to Survivor Series 1994 with the throw in the towel moment, and then conclude with, the Hart Foundation hugging and it called, all the twists and the turns and everything in between that as well. But that is debuting next week on flagshippatreon.com. Brett versus Owen. I'm very happy about it, and I think it's going to go really, really well. So excited to let you guys all hear that. So next week, dropping. So
tremendous.
There you go. And I think because I guess we'll do this now. I don't think we're not having a show next week, are we?
We always talk about this and never figure out, and then we always end up doing one.
Well, because the problem is I go to Dynamite the week before or the day before Thanksgiving, so that fucks everything up. So unless we do a show on Tuesday, we might not have a show next week. So we will talk about it off air and try to figure it out. Always comes out. It always this is earlier than most times. Like most times it's like that Monday and I'm like, fuck, Thanksgiving. What are we going to do? You know what I mean? So we'll figure it out. But anyway.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. We'll talk about it though.
Yeah. Maybe a week away is not the worst thing. That'll be all right. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of these topics before we get out of here. Let's talk about DDT. Yes, when is the last time, Joe, we talked about DDT on this show? I can't even imagine the last time we broke down.
I don't remember the last time we talked about DDT. I will say this. I have watched all of their big title matches because I've watched every big Chris Brooks title match this year, and he's having a really good year. I mean, I can't. But you're right. We never do segments on the show. No, we never do. But Chris Jericho was on this show, so we decided, screw it, let's do it. And I'm glad I watched it because I watched the Chris Jericho Takeshita match, which was the semi-main event of Ultimate Party. And then I watched the main event, Yuki Ueno versus Chris Brooks for the KOD Openweight
title. So we'll start with Chris Jericho and Takeshita. I kind of thought we were going to get a little bit of I didn't think we were going to get a lazy Chris Jericho, but I was kind of stunned at the type of Chris Jericho we got here. No bells, no whistles, no tricks or anything. He just went out there and worked his ass off against Takeshita. In the beginning of this match, man, that bell rang and these guys went at it for like 10 straight minutes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Jericho had his working boots on this night. Now, was the match itself like great? I wouldn't call it a great match, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I don't know what you thought of it, but I was stunned at how good Jericho was, and I just thought that Takeshita and him had pretty good chemistry, and I'd be really excited about seeing these guys in another big time match in AEW or whatever. I think would be fantastic for me because I thought it over delivered, at least to my expectations.
I can't believe the stuff Chris Jericho was willing to do physically in this match. I mean, he never dogs it, but he took some wild bumps for a 53-year-old man or whatever.
Like, what I'm thinking is during this match is like, Jericho, you can dog it. Like, you don't have to do this. Like you could just go out there and he goes to Japan, man. He just and anywhere. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere, but especially when he goes to Japan, you could tell the amount of respect that he still has for, okay, now I'm in Japan. I got to bring my working boots. I got to work my ass off. And I think that's what I was taken aback by most is the bumps that he was willing to take and the velocity that he was working at. I mean, they were going at it. And I'm like, man, Chris Jericho got his cardio up for this match for sure because they were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth real fast. And Jericho can still go to that level. And it's a testament, like you said. He's at 52 years old. He probably could just rest on his laurels, but he's out there busting his ass, taking big bumps, going fast, working into the style. And this had the crowd going nuts too. And I really liked it. I really did.
Yeah. He just did. Now, I did see some people grumbling about him beating Takeshita in the match in DDT, but the thing about that is DDT historically doesn't really get wound up about that kind of stuff. I mean, they kind of know their place in the pecking order. I know when they've done stuff with New Japan that the New Japan guys would beat their guys, and even Hiroshima, with the feud where Tanahashi ate him up. I don't think DDT cares. Plus, the other thing about it is Takeshita was doing his AEW gimmick, and this was really more. This was more like an AEW match happening on a DDT show than it was Chris Jericho from AEW wrestling DDT's Konosuke Takeshita.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, it's almost like I feel like DDT just let AEW book the match. It's like that old story we always tell. The first Dragongate 6-man, the famous one that put Dragongate on the map for a lot of people in the West on that WrestleMania weekend show, where Shima and the boys go up to Gabe and they're like, what do you want us to do, boss? And Gabe is like, you book it yourself. Right?
Do what you want to do.
You got all the time you need and you do whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. You guys aren't going to be here in 3 days. Just go out there and tear the house down. I feel like that may have been the situation here where it's like, well, this is really an AEW match happening.
Well, and Takeshita's kind of said that as well. I mean, he will tell people he's an AEW guy right now. And he, like you said, he worked it. He didn't work like Takeshita's back in DDT. He worked it like AEW's Takeshita is in DDT. And that, with that standpoint, it was like, I can't get too wound up about the finish. I mean, would I like Takeshita to get some wins? Yes, but that's not Chris Jericho's fault. Takeshita should be getting wins on AEW Dynamite all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I would book Takeshita, is this guy would always be winning, and this would be one of his rare losses, but, I don't have the pencil, so it's not what I'm doing.
Yeah,
but.
And this is not vintage DDT version Takeshita. He was a heel here, and he was doing his AEW shtick. So I don't think there's merit to that. I think the finish was fine. What did you think of them shaking hands? That's a little
that I didn't love. Yeah, that because if we're on the standpoint of these guys are doing their AEW shtick or whatever, I didn't need the handshake thing. Or if Chris Jericho wants to stick his hand out, Takeshita should just kick it away and just be like, "No, fuck off, get out of here."
Right, get his heat back.
Yeah.
Right. So, the main event, I thought that the work was really good, and I thought that it was a really good match, but I thought they did too much.
Just too long. That's exactly my notes.
It was
it's
too
like
long.
it was like
Yeah,
11 minutes too long. It was like, all right, we get it. Go home, guys. Let's go home, please. And they just didn't.
Now, I readily admit that this could be a product of me dropping in on the match. You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh yeah. There's big stakes here that I probably didn't fully appreciate. Like, Chris Brooks he's been, and they did the pre-match video. I don't know what your pre-match video, but they did a really good job of Chris Brooks talking about his time at, getting to this level of DDT and getting the title and that sort of stuff. And yeah, his reign hasn't been too long. I think he won it somewhere in the summer, right? He won it in June or July or whatever. So it's not like a super long reign or whatever, but it felt like they went for the epic of Chris Brooks is he finally got to this point and he doesn't want to let it go and he doesn't want to lose this title, and Ueno's is his first title too. So these are guys that are finally getting a chance to get to the top of the card or whatever. So I understand what they were going for, and I admit, yeah, it was me dropping in after not watching a ton of DDT this year. But yeah, as the match was going on, I was like, I get it, guys. Let's go home. And it just felt like a little overkill. Just like I said, 11 minutes too long, which is pretty crazy to say about a match that went. But if you watch this match, you'll see it's just like you're in the finishing sequence, and then you got about another 14 minutes left to go after you feel like we're in the finishing sequence, and that it just got a little long in the tooth at a certain point, and they were just under a half hour as well for this match.
Yeah, I think I liked the Brooks title win over Yuji Hino more. If I had to compare the two matches, which I think is going to be, maybe not a hot take, but I think more people preferred the Ueno match, and I could see why, because it was that epic, tons of kickouts, world title style match with one guy winning his first world title and all that. But I just thought they missed the peak, and I thought they did too much, and they were starting to lose my interest by the end. But it was, and I thought the Brooks match against Yuji Hino back in the summer was a tighter match with, a cleaner start to finish story and all that. But yeah, I would suspect if you're a big DDT fan who's been following Ueno's climb and all that, you may have appreciated the fact that it was more of a tons of kick out epic style match than I would.
Right. And it's the crowning of Ueno. So if you've been big on his story, you're like, no, it's good that he needed to, fight like hell and finally achieve this, getting to this top title. So I get that. And that sometimes you're a victim of that. And I'll readily admit, sometimes I'm a victim of that too. Dropping in.
Yeah.
I don't know all the stories. I haven't watched this company every single month or whatever. I've seen a couple DDT
Zero
matches
emotional investment whatsoever.
I'm just watching because I was watching Takeshita and Jericho, and then I was like, you know what? Brooks and Ueno looks like a pretty good match too. I'll watch it too. I like both those guys. I think they're good workers. Let me see what happens here. And I'm not saying that I hated the match. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really, really good action. I agreed with you. It was like it felt a little long and a little too epic for me. And that a lot of wrestling in 2023 does do that. A lot of times people think that, hey, we're in a main event, we gotta go to this level, and you don't always have to go to that level. And in the case like this, like they were there and just kept going and kept kicking out and kept hitting moves and yeah, it lost me. That's all I'm saying. If you still like the match, that's fine. I'm just saying it lost me. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so. I still thought it was a very good match. I preferred Jericho Takeshita though, for sure.
Yes. Oh yeah, I would agree.
I did watch the Cardona bullshit with Mao.
Yeah, I saw 5 minutes of that and said, you know what? I think I am good. And then I clicked off of that part of the video. So,
well, did you get to the fucking sex doll as the referee?
I did. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's about the time when I was like, yeah, I think I'm.
That's when you were done.
I think I'm okay with this. Yeah, Cardona doing like Long Island Ice Z shtick in Sumo Hall. It's like I don't know, man. Is 2001 Zack Ryder spots really what you should be doing in Sumo Hall in 2023? I mean,
I guess so for what this was.
Yeah.
But I was specifically told, Joe, don't watch anything else on the show other than the top two.
Right.
Because people know already.
That's DDT. Yeah. DDT, baby.
47.85 in Sumo Hall. I think that's a good number for the current state of Japanese wrestling.
Yeah, it looks good.
Where DDT is right now. So I think whatever they paid Chris Jericho, which I'm sure was an enormous sum of money, I can't imagine he got his New Japan rate, but I mean, maybe he did. If he did, they probably didn't make any money on the show, but yeah, drawing almost 5,000. at this day and age, look, they're not going to do right now, 11,000 like they did when Kota Ibushi was headlining, 12 years ago in the current state of Japan. You do 5,000 in Sumo Hall for this show. When you stack it up next to some of the other big show numbers from some of the other non-new, or even New Japan companies, to be honest. I mean, even New Japan, that's about what New Japan did for, what was it? What was their last big show? Power Struggle?
Power Struggle, yeah.
Which wasn't in Sumo Hall. It was in, where the fuck was Power Struggle?
That was Bodymaker,
right now.
Bodymaker in Osaka.
And what it do? Like 4,000, like around the same number, right?
Yeah,
like 4,000 or something like that. So, and it outdrew what Dragon Gate do in, what was that, Osaka or Kobe, where they were last? They were in...
Yeah, so just to clarify, 4,046 was the number for Power Struggle, and the Kobe, I think, did... Or no, they were in Osaka. You're talking about Dragon Gate when they were in
Dragon Gate, Osaka. They were in Osaka.
Yeah, they were in Osaka just a couple of days after that. Let me see what that number was. It was a little less, I want to say. So that's kind of
the point here is DDT. That's a good number for DDT. I know that's like a huge show for them, whereas Power Struggle is like a secondary show for, like, it's not Dominion or fucking Wrestle Kingdom or the G1 final. I understand that, right? But it's just to give some perspective. Destruction in Kobe, 4,200, and Destruction in Sumo Hall, 5,000.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with right now.
So so to do 4,700 for this show, that's a good number. You can't,
2,408 was the number for Dragon Gate Gated Destiny.
For Dragon Gate. So so the DDT number is a good number. It's a really good number, I think. So anyway, we'll talk about DDT again in like a year. So
right.
There you go.
You got your
DDT talk.
I do like the main event matches, and Wrestle Universe is an easy service to use. So I might start checking in on their main events a little bit more moving forward, because I enjoyed it. I also, on my Wrestle Universe subscription, Joe, checked out Noah's Demolition in Fukuoka with Jake Lee losing the GHC title, ending his reign at 233 days. I don't know what they say they got in that building, but whatever they say, they're lying. That was dire. Did you see what that show looked like?
This was the...
They say they have 1,309. My ass, they had 1,309 people in there. Fuck no.
Yeah, I mean...
Where were those people sitting?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because they weren't in any of the decks, because the decks were completely empty. The floor, there was people on the floor. I'll give them that, but...
Well, what do you think of doing the other half of Demolition Stage in Niigata and drawing over 1,000 fans for a Daga Hayata main event? It almost, it's only a couple hundred fans short of what Jake Lee's fucking GHC title match did.
Daga and Hayata.
With Daga and Hayata on top, which Daga won the title, by the way. Which,
great.
Get into it. Get into it. But, I think the bigger thing here is Kano wins, which... I didn't get to this match until a couple weeks after it happened, because this was back on October 28th. So
right, we're very behind on this, but we figured we might as well get to it now.
Yeah, so I thought that the Jack Morris won the national title from El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Now that could be a developing story, because I think El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr.'s contract is coming up, and and him losing this title is a little ominous. So. I know he's doing a Progress show coming up, and, he's really put himself on the map. So we see what happens with that situation. But Kano wins the title from Jake Lee. And, the match was fine, but it's just another Jake Lee match where he's just lulling you to sleep.
Fuck,
yeah, it did not work at all, this title reign. And, it didn't, and then concurrently you have Yuma Aoyagi just killing it in All Japan at the same time, which kind of, turns the knife a little on Lee. He's got to be done as a top guy here. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it just didn't work, and he's not really all that conducive to the style, and his title reign just wasn't good. So, and he held it for a long time. So, he won it from Kaito Kiyomiya, and then, I didn't love the Shiozaki. Did you watch the Shiozaki match?
I don't like
September?
Jake Lee stinks, man. I don't like it. He's boring. He looks like shit. He's never quite sure what his gimmick is or what he's supposed to look like or whatever. I think you on our Discord said he looks like a school shooter now, and he kind of does.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? He's got like a hat and a jacket, and it's like he's just throwing gimmicks against the wall. And the guy is just the biggest fucking dud. It's just, ugh. He's just a pile of nothing. And yeah, bell rings. He just says these boring ass matches. And these guys try their hardest. And like this Kano match, they slapped each other and kicked each other and punched each other a lot. But at a certain point, that's what the Go Shiozaki match was too. And at a certain point, it's like, all right, yeah, I get it. You're slapping each other. You're striking each other. That's kind of cool. Can we maybe, pick this up a notch? And they're always like 30 minutes and about 17 minutes in, you're just like,
Jake Lee's incapable of picking it up.
Right. I'm like, oh God, we're going.
And they did a Korakuen number in this Fukuoka building. They did 1,300 fans or whatever. He did 900 against Shiozaki. He did
this building for people that did not see this match. I mean, there is noticeable that there's nobody in the upper decks. There's nobody on the bleachers. It's all on the floor. It's just,
it's
bad. Dire, but hey, that's this guy.
Are you
1,300? Are you surprised? It's Jake Lee.
Yeah, 800 against Takashi Sagara in Nagoya. Now they did do 2,700 for the match against Marufuji back in Noah Majestic, but in the building that they were in, it's like they only had 2,700 people in fucking Sumo Hall for that match, which is not great. The Sendai match against Nakajima drew 1,200. So, it's just, the title change at Great Voyage where he won the title, 1,300 in the Yokohama Budokan. Again, a Korakuen number. It just didn't work at the gate. The matches weren't great. And it really represents a real dull time in Noah. Everything post Muto, as we predicted, has gone to shit because they didn't build anybody. They didn't build anybody. And now this is the situation they're in.
Maybe we know what we're talking about, and maybe we've been around this shit for enough time to. No, that can't be. It's got to be something else. So.
I really liked Alpha Wolf and Dragon Bane against Terasuke and Yohei, believe it or not, on the undercard. Because I watched the top 4 on the show, and I think the Jack Morris, son of Wagner, was I thought a better match in the main event slightly, and what I didn't really like the Marufuji and Takashi Sagara versus, I think it was the end of the road for Axis, Shiozaki and Nakajima. This is how far back we're going because Nakajima was still there. That didn't really land for me, and I think that's the highest rated match on Cage Match. But I thought that match was boring. But and then they came back in Niigata the following week. Like I said, they headlined with Daga and Hayata, and I was told not to watch it, so I didn't. You didn't have to tell me twice.
No problem. Got it.
You didn't have to tell me twice. Yeah.
So. You know what? I also will not watch that match. No, thank you. Not interested in Daga, Hayata.
And Anthony Green and Jack Morris retained the tag titles against Kaito Kiyomiya and Rohei Oiwa, because Kaito Kiyomiya, I don't think is ever going to win another match in the rest of his career. But did you see Kano's statement?
Yeah,
he said,
what were he was dogging on Kiyomiya, but I forget exactly the.
I want to get the exact words.
Yeah, because it was good. It was good. I'll find it too if I can.
Yeah, they announced Kiyomiya for World Tag League, and we all know that he was a fucking bomb in the G1. Kayfabe. And Kano, as the new champion, had some choice words for Kiyomiya as he goes to World Tag League now. As I stall for time, as Rich tries to.
I'm trying. I don't know how to find it. I'm not sure how to get it, but it was whatever it was. It was good. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. But
I think it was there's a tweet.
Then I got to go on Twitter, so I'll try to find another way.
There's a tweet floating around. Let me see if I can find it. I think.
Great radio.
That's right. Late in the show. if you're around at this point, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah. I clearly have nothing else to do with your night, so
let's try the Discord and see if it's there.
That's what I'm working at. That's what I'm working at.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll try something else and see if it's there. The quote is worth the time.
To trust us.
So, wait, did really no one post it in the Noah?
That's what I thought. I can't find it there either. That's why I'm
How
striking
could
out
no one
here.
have posted it? Where else would I have seen it?
Maybe it's just an embedded tweet or something. So,
oh, here we go. I got it. You ready?
Yeah.
Kano had this to say about Kaito Kiyomiya being in the World Tag League. Quote, if you can't get results, don't come back to Noah.
Yes.
So
yeah,
he basically laid it on the line. If you go there and flop again, you're out, brother. That's going to be the end of you. So we don't want you back. So now his literal gimmick is he's a loser. Like first Keiji Muto beat
this
him
will
in
work.
the
I'm
fucking
positive
ground.
this time it will work. Yeah, sure.
Now his literal gimmick is he's a fucking loser who doesn't get the job done. Tremendous job, Pro Wrestling Noah. The Muto stuff with all those eyeballs on the company, they successfully built no one, not a single person, because you let Muto run roughshod over everybody. So I don't know. You get what you get. You know, you deserve it.
Joe, nobody could have predicted that. Nobody could have
Who
predicted
could
this,
have predicted this?
that this would be the result of it.
Yeah.
Nobody. Unbelievable. So
Told we're wrong every step of the way.
we're always right. And we're
Insisting it was a plan that was going to come together.
Yeah. Sure.
There's a history here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know the history. So this All Japan Real World Tag League, you know, there's only been 2 shows and I haven't watched them yet, but they're doing 2 different teams that are, can they coexist, which is concerning. Nakajima doesn't like Hokuto Omori, and he apparently fired him.
Fired
as his
him
partner.
already. Yeah. Did he already fire him? Did he replace him or he just fired him?
I think he brought him back because
okay.
I think they're 2-0. And then Hideki Suzuki is not getting along with Suwama. So there's 2 teams that I don't know if I would have brought Hideki Suzuki in necessarily. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table other than being a pain in the ass, but you know, whatever. He probably won't do a single job, probably throwing some draws, but it looks like they're building a match with him and Suwama, which I have no interest in.
Yeah, no thank you on that one either. But
I heard the first night was pretty good, so I have to catch up on that another time. What else we got left here?
Dragongate is all we got.
Dragongate.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Dragongate had their Gate of Evolution show in Corcoran Hall on November 9th. Case Lowe wrote a great review of it at voicesofwrestling.com. The Open the Voice Gate guys. Case and Mike also talked about the show on this week's episode of Open the Voice Gate. But I decided to watch it as well, watch the business end of the show, the final couple matches. And the 8-man and the 4-on-1 handicap main event are must-sees if you are a Dragongate fan, if you're somebody who's kind of maybe a lapsed Dragongate fan and is starting to fall out of the favor of it. Like last week I came on the show and I was like, yeah, I just didn't love that main event. And a lot of people got on me about, oh, no, it was great. It was great. And it spoke more to...
So I have... Okay,
yeah,
so I did watch
it.
And I told you I would tell you what I thought.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong. I really liked it.
That's fine.
I have to side with the chat. Actually, I think I fall in between because someone in the chat was like, it was the best match of the week. Listen, there ain't no way that was better than Ospreay versus Shota Umino. There is no fucking way on earth that it was a better match than that. So, but I did think it was better than you thought. I think I'd go about 4.5 on Kakuta versus Shimizu. But yeah, anyway, I told people I would update them on that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, so I'm somebody who's kind of like you sort of fell out of favor a little bit ago with Dragongate, and I've kind of been wavering a little bit and here and there, and I check in, but nothing's really making me feel. You know what I mean? I don't feel when I watch Dragongate anymore. I watch Dragongate and it's over, and I click the video off, and I'm like, I don't know. You know, there's just I have no takes about them. I have no thoughts about them. Then I see these matches, and I had thoughts about these matches, man. These were fantastic. I'll start with the 4-on-1 handicap match. It was Luis Monte, who is, of course, lost his mask a couple of months ago, has been kind of working his way, through the Dragongate ladder now as former Diamante, and so he's unmasked or whatever, and it's a 4-on-1 here against Z-Brats, and they beat the fuck out of him, and they beat him up, and you got Shun Skywalker kind of leading the troops or whatever, and then, halfway through the match, Hyo says, fuck this, and throws salt and or powder or whatever in Shun Skywalker's face. Helps Luis Mante win this match and win the 4-on-1 handicap match. But you might not think a 4-on-1 handicap match would be that entertaining, but it is fucking entertaining. I'm telling you, it is a blast to watch Mante just try to rise up, and the fans just all in, 100% in on this guy. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. If we just keep cheering louder, he'll do it. And you got these shitbag heels of Skywalker and Kai and Ishin, and Hyo's not doing too much, and then it makes more sense in a little bit. But Kai and Shun are just the biggest dirtbag, shitbag heels, and Monte's just firing up little by little, and it's like, come on, he'll do it. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Then Hyo does the turn, and the crowd just loses their mind, and he ends up winning the 4-on-1 handicap match there. So I really love that match. I thought it was really good, and just I felt again in Dragongate, and I haven't felt in Dragongate in a while.
In a lot of promotions, you have the babyface against 4 heels. The babyface is going to pull off the miraculous win, right? Dragongate has never done things like that. We've seen matches over the years where they'll do like a gauntlet match or something, and the heels will just fucking beat the babyface because they have them outnumbered, and it just doesn't make fucking sense. You emasculate your heels if they lose in that situation. So Monte's hanging in there, but he's getting his fucking ass kicked. And then they do the turn with Hyo, and the crowd goes apeshit crazy. And then, Mante wins, and Shun Skywalker is fucking annoyed, that Hyo pulled this. And this had the heart that Dragongate hasn't had in years, And really, the only other time Dragongate has had this kind of heart recently, it was when Mante lost his mask.
Yeah.
So, that was also like a throwback Dragongate scenario.
Yeah, if people don't remember how that happened, is him and Shun were on the same team, and Shun was kind of like, no, I'll sacrifice myself. I don't want you to lose your mask or whatever. Right. And then just fucked the guy over and
double-crossed
him.
Yeah.
I forget if he hooked him onto the cage or something like that. I forget what it was, if he used handcuffs or whatever, but essentially just left the guy laying and said, fuck you. Of course I wasn't going to let you take my mask. Go to hell. You can lose your mask. I don't give a shit. And climbs out of the cage or whatever. And that had a real moment there where Luis Mante realized, fuck, I got screwed over. Now I got to get rid of my mask. I got to be a whole new man or whatever. And this was another really, really cool moment there. So the Mante Shun Skywalker match is going to be fucking awesome when those guys have it. You got a cool little team here with Hyo and Mante, and I'm all in. Yeah, it was really cool.
This long-term build to this singles match we're going to get. And this really just had so much heart, and it was a feel-good moment. And that's what Dragongate used to give you on a regular basis. But really, ever since the pandemic, and a lot of these guys like Yuki Yoshioka, who to me just haven't worked out. I don't think Kakuta is necessarily working out. Their matches just don't have any heart. And that's what's been missing from Dragongate. The crowds aren't really, and this was a vintage Dragongate crowd because they were given something that emotionally they could attach to. And everybody told me to watch the 8-man semi, which was a great match. But I'm glad, and I just left it on I said, I'm already in. I'm just going to watch the main event. And I ended up liking that so much more than the 8-man semi but in combination, those two matches, it felt like throwback Dragongate. You had this go, wild action 8-man semi.
With a young wrestler that made you the focus of the match was that Tanaka kid. And he's small, but man, he can move around. And that's like a classic Dragongate guy too. That's the type of dudes I want again in Dragongate. It's just dudes that just fucking fly around and do crazy shit. You know what I mean? And that was Ryoya, I think is how you pronounce it, Tanaka. That was that match. Yeah. And that match was totally bell rang and everybody just did shit. You know what I mean? It was just boom, 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 guy, moving all over the place, jumping all over the place. Yeah. And that's like, I felt again. I was like, yes, this is it. This is
your Big Brother's Dragongate.
Right.
That match. And I didn't think it was like a notebook match. People are like, it's like a match of the year.
No. It was just a fun match that I enjoyed watching. Yeah.
It was fun. And it was a great watch. And it was natural vibe. And I had to sit through a Natural Vibes dance routine. I don't want to do that.
You're not dancing.
God, it's so fun. I hate that. I hated it from day one. Okay.
You are consistent.
I'm an original.
You are consistent.
An original Natural Vibes hater. Susumu just fucking going through the motions in the early days. He didn't really want to do it.
He's like, I'm not doing this. Yeah.
He's like, God, I'm too old for this shit. And then
give me a glow stick. I'll dance a glow stick around, but that's it.
Tanaka's on the Courage team, so and even with Kakuta and Yoshioka, he was kind of the focus there. And that was good. And then I left it on for the main event, and then I'm glad I did, because I'm like, wow, these two matches just feels like your big brother's Dragongate again. And they've been missing that soul. It's been a soulless promotion for a long time. And I've taken a lot of shit for having that take, and I just have to call it like I see it. I feel like it's reflected in the crowds as well. And just a lot of these young guys who are such great workers, they don't have any crowd connection. I don't think Yoshioka has a fucking drop of crowd connection. I don't think Kakuta has any crowd connection. And I feel like Monte does. I feel like Luis Monte.
Oh, when Kyo jumped into his arms, this very... I don't know the right terminology to do it, but it's very, it's not masculine at all, but it's in all the perfect ways of Dragongate. You know what I mean? Like very emotional, two men embrace in this very, deliberate hug. Hyo jumps into his arms and they embrace and they cry. Like that shit's Dragongate, man. You know what I mean? Like that's it. That's the ethos of that company.
I didn't see it coming, and maybe hardcore Dragongate fans did, but I didn't see it coming because I haven't been following. I'm not locked into all these Corkins. I'm watching what Case Lowe tells me to watch, and he knows what I'm going to like and what I'm not going to like. So, and Monte, to me, he might be my favorite guy in the company right now.
Yeah,
I loved him as Diamante, and I love what they're doing here. And Shun Skywalker is one of the best heels in all of wrestling. And I want Monte to beat this fucking guy. I want the match, and I want him to beat him. And Dragongate hasn't made me feel like this in so long, where I actually give a shit about a result or seeing a match or a build. And they're not rushing through it. This goes all the way back to the cage match. And now this has been months and months. Monte disappeared for a while. Now this was great, and you've got my attention back.
Yeah.
You've got my attention back. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm all in again or anything like that, but they have earned my attention. And this was the kind of thing that only Dragongate can deliver. And they delivered. There's no other promotion in the world that can deliver a moment the way that moment in that main event was delivered. There's no other promotion capable of it. And that's what Dragongate's been missing. And at least on this night, it was back. So I was real fired up about it and excited about it. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to more Monte moving forward with Hyo.
Absolutely. All right. We are approaching the end of the show. For people that were asking, I have been refreshing like crazy. The Wrestling Observer with the Hall of Fame results is not out yet. So we stalled for time. We went about 20 minutes over our normal time. Mostly with the idea that maybe that newsletter would be out by this time, but it is not. So unfortunately, we will not be covering that on this show or the Overrun. We will figure out some way to cover it at some point in the next couple of days. We'll figure it out, whether it be written content or whatever. You'll get something. Trust us. We're not going to do all this work on the Hall of Fame and then the results come out and then we're not going to do anything about it. We'll do something at some point soon, but stay tuned for that, and we'll see what ends up happening with the results of the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, but not on this show. We are done for this week. Again, Instant Reaction Live for AEW Full Gear coming up this Saturday, immediately following the show. Flagship.patreon.com, $10 tier. Also, you subscribe to that Patreon, you're going to get the new series Brett versus Owen coming up next week. $5 tier for that show, but make sure you just subscribe to the $10 tier. You get live flagships, you get live instant reactions, you're going to get all the $5 bonus audio, all the written content, everything all at once. It's the better choice. Just give us the $10. It's a much better idea to do that over at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/patreon. Also voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns of all the stuff we've talked about on this show. The Discord, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. I definitely want to join that if you get a chance. We're on YouTube as well, Voices of Wrestling. Just search Voices of Wrestling on YouTube. You'll find us there, trying to pump that up a little bit more. So anytime you can subscribe to that, we would appreciate it. And then, make sure you subscribe to all of our podcasts on whatever podcast app of choice that you may choose. You got the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, the Flagship, all of our individual shows as well are all up there. And next week, to be decided about next week's show, but probably going to take the week off with Thanksgiving, but we'll see what ends up happening. But thank you guys again for listening. Thank you for your support, everything you do. We'll talk to you again next time. That's Joe. I'm Rich. Bye.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and 01. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.